Um, we will get tonight's meeting underway. Um, we will open with the public hearing portion of our meeting. So item 1, amending the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget. Anybody here to weigh in on that? Looks like
I got
nobody's
questions,
online.
Chris.
Oh, boy.
Do you want to wait until we discuss it?
We can wait till we discuss it.
Yeah,
but
this is
there
just
are
the public
definitely
hear-
questions.
Okay,
The public hearing.
You're not public anymore.
yeah, sorry. Okay, item 2, fiscal year 2025 executive municipal officers compensation for the proposed compensation increase for the municipal employees, including executive municipal officers, as set forth in the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
That public comment as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we will discuss it.
Yeah.
Item 3, Ben, Monica, this is really, just shout out if you've got anything you want to say. You're the public here. Okay, item 3, proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025. And proposed amendments to the city fee schedule. Hearing no public
It's
comments,
just a wave.
we will. Okay. We run a tight ship around here. Okay,
I just don't want anyone to say.
yeah. And I mean, honestly, if they did show up and wanted to comment, we would welcome their input. Yeah,
I'm not public either.
no. Yeah, let's just do that. We'll move on, and then if somebody comes, I mean, how rigidly are we required to stick to the public comment portion being? Okay, all right, we'll just adapt if anybody shows up. All right, now for the rest of us, it is your chance to really let Chris have it. Okay,
The mayor's
Item-
budget, let Chris have it.
that's right. Item 5, resolution, okay, so we will close the public hearing portion of our meeting and begin the work session. Item 5, discussion, resolution amending the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget.
Before
Chris,
Brian
why don't
jumps
you
in
give us,
quick.
give us the overview and
Yeah,
then we'll
give
get the
us the
discussion.
overview, please.
Okay. First of all, in all the years that I've been doing this, sorry to offend prior mayors or council members, this council is not a yes council, but they also dig into the budget. And so it's been really kind of fun to work the budget. This year it's been pretty smooth sailing with the, a couple things with the ongoing lawsuit. But we'll just go over some of the highlights. And then, and I'm okay, Mayor, if someone wants to jump in, like we're going through property taxes, to just start throwing questions out while we're there so everybody remembers what their questions are. So really our property taxes, we're estimated at 943,000 and we're going to be right about collecting that. We're about almost 100% collected property tax this year. It's been a long time since we've been that close. The other thing is unpaid property taxes. We originally thought we were going to have $55,000 of prior year's property tax collection. We're going to be closer to 83,000 is the estimation. Let's just keep going down. Sales tax. It's hard to quantify if the push that the mayor and the city council are doing with asking people to order more on Amazon or those kind of things is raising our sales tax revenue up, but it could be attributed to that. We thought we were originally going to collect 260,000 and we're about 279,000 this year. We did end up last year with $277,000. So something's going on where the city's able to recoup some more of those sales tax, plus more sales tax within the state of Utah shared portion we're getting also. Just a couple little
Everything
things.
costs more.
Yeah. Transportation tax. Oh, sorry.
Nothing. I was
Okay.
just concurring that everything's more expensive.
So
And here's a prime example, our collection on electric and gas tax, because Questar had a raise last year and SCSD had a raise last year, by default, we're going to receive more money in taxes. We originally thought it was going to be about, it was hard to estimate because when the rates were increased, we hadn't had a full year to go through. Last year, a full year of collections to base it off of. Last year, we collected about 126,500. This year, we're going to be about $136,000. So you'll see some of these aren't quite collected because they're about 2 months behind in the payments to us. So we'll actually receive money in July for some of these that we'll get back processed into June. Same with the Class B and C road funds, which we'll come up to. We'll get our last drop for this fiscal year in August, and it'll be backdated into this current year. Going to drop the building permits down just a little bit, unless Jody, you've got some more that have come in the past couple of weeks. There's the Class C road allocation. Looks like we're going to be right about $135,000. We're not increasing too much in this revenue because we're not increasing our roads, our miles of roads, and it's based off of asphalted roads within the city of Woodland Hills that have been accepted. We do get a little bit of money, I believe, for dirt and gravel roads, but we don't have too many of those public. We're still going to get our Dreecum up tax, the liquor tax. We should get about $1,000 for that. And Jody, I haven't seen anything for the park grant. Have you? From Utah County?
Done away with the park grant, and it's now I want to say it's a restaurants something.
Oh, okay.
I have not seen paperwork for a park grant this year.
I haven't seen anything on the new restaurant tax or that. Let's keep going down. Fuel reduction. We anticipated that we would have the guys out fighting more fires last year to the tune of about 150,000. Really, it was about 80,000. And then we'll go here in a second. You can see the expenses that kind of gobbled up that 79,886. We did raise garbage fees mid-year, and so we projected we received about 172,000 for the rest of this current year. We do and will be receiving trail monies from Summit Creek. Let's see here real quick. We already have received it. They wrote us a $5,000 check for some of the trails. And we'll just keep going down. If it stop me, I'm going to skip a bunch. Here's a good one. Investments. So currently we have our money exclusively invested with the state of Utah's treasurer. Because housing interest rates are higher, we receive a higher portion for our investments. We originally thought we'd have about a $70,000 to $100,000 this year. We're going to be closer to $173,000. Plus, that's kind of a nice little added bonus for the residents. And then we also sold $110,000, almost $111,000 worth of stuff this year. So that was not in the original budget. Keep going down. Okay. This is where it's going to kind of get a little bit tricky. We originally last year discussed we were going to buy this new fire engine and have $110,000 to put down on the fire engine. But because of the way the leasing rates came in a little bit less, we decided to just fund the whole fire truck and take that $110,000, backfill our current year's budget so we didn't have to do a higher truth and taxation with the residents last August. Because of the way the budget is shaping up this year, we're actually not having to transfer that money in from capital projects. And I'll show you here at the bottom of the budget, we're actually going to be backfilling capital projects specifically into roads to be able to use next year. And once again, I'll go into that in a little more detail here. Won't talk too much about council's government. There's really not much to talk about there. We're well within budgets, if not under budgets, for some of the stuff that you guys and the mayor have spent. Admin salaries and wages. This really goes to Jody's and my salary. Because the lawsuit was winding up and Jody didn't have to do as many grandma requests and stuff, the overtime that were calculated towards that went down greatly. And so instead of our original budget of $193,000 for salaries, we're estimated to be about $158,000. So that also takes into consideration some reductions in a few other areas that deal with salaries. Our attorney. We spent about $35,000 this year so far on attorney. That's through April. We want to keep the $75,000 just as a cushion in case something else had come up between the time we are doing this revised budget and the end of June. So we're kind of keeping that one a little bit on the heavier side. Hopefully we won't have to use that and that can be rolled in to be utilized next year. Nothing else. Yes, this one we need to talk about a little bit. Repairs to the facility. Is it cool in that room or is it still kind of warm?
Pretty good, yeah.
So we got some estimates on fixing air conditioners, putting Band-Aids on them, or just replacing them because they're getting to their useful life. And Jody, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're replacing one and repairing two. We're replacing two and repairing one.
We are replacing 2 and repairing 1.
Great. And so I'm going to bump this up just a little bit to cover those associated costs. And I think it was like $19,000 to get what replaced two and
We ended up at 16,000.
perfect, even better.
And thank
Um,
to Ben, because I know that you referred someone to us that gave us
Right,
a good
so
deal.
now put the thumb screws on.
Can I ask a quick question on that, real quick, Chris? Is there any advantage for us to have a capital,
Capital fund?
fund for these? I mean, we're not depreciating and paying interest, so it's a little bit different for a government entity. Is there any benefit to be putting money away into a capital fund for these kind of things so that we're proactively looking at them?
there's always goodness to put money away. It's just in a city, it could be limitless. Let's save for this, let's save for that.
I mean, we could capitalize because of the cost of these two things. We could actually capitalize the two replacements, right? Because that falls under the regulations. Is there any benefit to the city by putting it under capital rather than under expense, or is there not? I was curious of that.
So I need to make sure your capitalization and my capitalization are the same thing. Our cap threshold is, I think, $1,000. So anything above 1,000 gets capitalized, and that goes on to like a depreciation kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about something else?
Correct.
Okay. So we do that in the water fund for some projects. We don't in here. We have talked as a group with the city staff about, we've had this line item for repairs, maintenance to city facilities, and to start looking at doing more every year and not, we've kind of used that as the savings account, but not accruing it every year. But as far as putting up another capital projects account for the future could be done. It would be number 7 that we have.
Which
Maybe we could get rid of 1 or 2 others.
That's one of the things I want to talk about because of this wall out here and things like that. We should be putting some money away so it's not hitting us in 1 year as an expense, rather than we can start outlaying some funds into those.
Yeah, I assume the furnaces will probably need to be replaced shortly as well. They've just got brand new air conditioning coils, but the heating elements probably haven't been. Are we still on original heating elements and things? So the furnaces will probably need to be an overhaul at some point. I would assume, you've got garage openers downstairs that probably will need to. The boiler's probably going to need something, and so I think we've got some big
This rock
potential.
wall, I mean, we're probably into an $80,000 onto this that needs to be done. So
Yeah, and we can just keep kicking that can. No.
Right. Well, the thing about, the one thing I will say that, like this year, more than any year, I believe, we will have some predictability in terms, especially with our roads and things of that nature. So that's, to me, I mean, for my part, I've always been a little hesitant. I mean, we set aside money for improving this facility and so forth, but it just seems like we're running so far behind on the more critical needs that this is one of those things, including the rock wall. It's like, all right, well, we just don't have the funds for that. And I'm pinning a lot of this on Ted, but I have great hopes that we will be able to make meaningful progress and have meaningful improvements mapped out in terms of our critical infrastructure. But and I'm not saying I don't want to do what you are proposing, because I think it is a good idea. I will say that more than any year since I've been in office, I feel a level of confidence that at least with respect to roads and water and so forth, we'll have some measure of predictability, which would allow us to do that. Whereas before, it just seemed like it was a little bit more amorphous. And so I agree with you. The only thing I guess the reason I'm even bringing it up is because, even in terms of tax rates and things of that nature, I mean, I would like to have a few years of stability to see how our roads shake out and see how we do with respect to water lines and other things once we get on this plan and see what kind of additional income we might have that we can apply towards. I mean, I get it. The rock wall, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just keep kicking
And
the
we
can down the
We
road.
put money away for a fire truck. We've been putting money away
Yeah.
for an ambulance, you know. Those kind of things are something that I'm used to doing and putting $10,000 a year into a fund that we can take care of these things with, that we can
Yeah.
actually capitalize.
No, it's a good idea. I guess my only point is that I think that now that we've got some planning involved, or some very specific planning involved in our public works, I think that we are better positioned to do that kind of thing, and also to make sure that the critical pieces are at least, you know, at a minimum threshold
Yep.
being met.
And maybe what we could do is under our current capital projects account, and when Ted gets some of his more data in, we could put specific projects down there like facility repairs and not have so many accounts, so many capital accounts, but we'd have one capital account that's starting to save for these particular events that
Yeah,
trigger.
even if it's just a building capital account,
Yeah.
building facilities capital account, that we could actually be putting money into, just a thought.
Yeah. And I would, and as Ted continues to work and get some of his data back, it's going to be really kind of fun to be able to start budgeting and not being reactionary, but being, you know, being able to get stuff done ahead of time and not always going back and having to raise taxes here or that, or
I know I'm just sitting back and listening to you because I'm just like, I don't have to ask these questions.
It's a curve we've all been through.
Hey, Chris, on the 4190, 102,
That was one we were looking at today.
SWIP.
what's the deal with that one? Yeah.
So this is based off, this is the gentleman that comes and does the inspections, and it's just based off of how many homes we have that are still in that program. This is paid by the developers.
It is. I mean, I just wonder why it's higher than what we guessed.
Yeah, he hasn't billed us for a while, but like I said, we collect this up front.
Okay,
And so we've got running totals on those.
all right.
Okay, some of the salaries are being adjusted. Like we had $20,000 originally planned for the zoning enforcement officer, but we're gonna be closer to 5,100 this year, which also takes into consideration some of the taxes. Just as Corbett and Craig have left, and we've shifted around some responsibilities and really have started to fine tune where Ted's working. We've been able to reduce in certain areas and then increase in certain areas. We'll continue to talk about those. Fire.
And Wayne took a major pay cut too, so thank you, Wayne, for taking one for the team.
Is he below zero now? paying
He's
enough?
Wayne, I work for
Right.
free, Francis.
Now, he gets $5,000, but I
Woo!
think that amounts to probably about 40 cents an hour or something, if even that.
Should
You're
we-
generous. Yeah, 40 cents is
We
generous.
should get him to pay us per hour.
Right. Well, that's
Be
what we're
careful,
working
he'd do that.
We'll get there.
Fire wages are just inherently, so this is fire wages for the local guys, not the guys that go out and fight the brush fires. Just by virtue of you losing a few fire members, and with Ted now on salary, things are changing around once again. We're not having to calculate so much for fire. One thing we did do in the fires, we had to up the fire because we did receive that new fire truck, and we received the loans from Zion's Bank to outfit the truck, and those monies were run through the fire equipment and supplies. So we're upping that from the $35,000 to the $63,000, but we did receive the money from Zion's Bank for that. And the trucks. We have two new leases, one on the Chief's truck and one on the fire engine, and those payments are now that we've closed the loans, we've got the amortization schedules, and we have a definitive amount now how much to put in. We knew the fire truck was going to be about $77,000. Actually came in about 72,000, and then the interest, or excuse me, the fire truck, the Chief's truck, is about 10,000 a year, and then we had some other capital outlay that, because of the large purchases for the new fire truck, came there. So those you'll start seeing regular for the rest of the time everybody's on on council here. So 10 years for the new fire truck and 3 years, at least 3 years for the fire chief's truck. Okay, let's talk about fuel reduction. These are the gentlemen that, these are the firefighters that go out and fight the wildland fires. So we're projecting it's going to be about $90,000. Now that's a combination of last year through, I think they stopped working around October, and then they started again this April. If you remember, the first year we did this, we received, they earned about $200,000. Of that, we're trying to keep a chunk for the city and the citizens to use, because it is the citizens' truck that goes out and fights the fires, and then the rest goes to support this program. Because last year was only about $80,000, we're dipping into the first year's savings account, which Chief Northup had planned for anyways in his original budgets 2 years ago. This will be our 3rd year doing wildland fires. When we're done, Ted, in October, November, December, I would recommend that you and I sit down. Let's put a 3-year synopsis together for the council and see where we are and if they want to continue or if it's something they don't want to continue. Animal regulations went down by a little bit. Streets wages went down a little bit. Just once again, by virtue of not having 2 employees working in that department, full-time employees. Same with the health insurance went down. I put a little bit extra in the street technical. Remember, has something in the back of my mind was we approved some kind of study or something that Jones DeMille was going to do. And I don't think we've seen all the full bills on that yet. And Ted, I can't remember what that study was off the top of my head. Do you? Or anybody on council?
Yeah, so we have, one is, well, the pavement management plan.
Okay.
Is what Jones and Mills helping us with. It's helping us outline the road. So, and you're right. I don't think they've only billed us for maybe half of it so far, but they're about, they're getting close to being finished with it.
Okay.
And they're going to actually do a presentation to the council.
Okay. So we've cut that back. Now let's talk about streets in general. So we've currently this year $41,000 on just repairs, maintenance. I think a lot of that went to a crack seal. At least half of that went to crack seal. We originally had $100,000. So just leaving 60,000 in case something happens between now and June 30th. So we don't go over budget on that particular line item. But let's jump down here to Class C road maintenance. We had 100,000 projected to be used from our Class C
Brian
road
jumped
maintenance.
in with a question about the pop
I
repair.
wanted to make sure that's enough to cover the pothole repair that's coming tomorrow.
Yeah, it's about 4,500. They're
Okay,
doing
so
half a
that's
dozen
all- okay.
potholes,
I just wanted to
and
make
it's
sure
about
not-
$4,500. So
Good, thank you
Big
for
one,
that.
Phil? Finally?
which one? One with the witch
The
in
big
it?
one by Maple?
Yeah, it's our community pool, you mean, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted us to have a reservoir, but I didn't
No,
want it
that's
in the middle
just
of the
down
road.
Maple around the curve. That's the-
I guess I don't know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
All right.
So I guess what I'm saying, we didn't, because the pavement management plan has been in the works since the past several months, we haven't spent as much on repairing the roads currently this fiscal year. And so we're going to take these monies that were not spent yet on the roads, and it's going to be proposed that we move them into next fiscal year. And you'll see the total is about $450,000 into next year. And then bring them back in so they can be spent on roads. And hopefully you guys will be pleasantly surprised with how much we can put in for roads next year and repairs, something that hasn't been done in a long time. And it'll be a good thing. Snow plowing came in under budget for most things except for salt, a little bit more on salt, but we knew that. And there's still quite a bit of salt down there, if I remember what you guys said. The video Ben sent me. Parks, for the most part, is coming in less. We did end up buying the mower this year. And we did bump.
Well, we paid him, or we showed him we didn't pay him, so that's how we,
Peterson's working for
calling.
free. Tell Peterson thanks for working for free.
He's calling me. I'm just gonna text
Um,
him. I said that he called.
the lawnmower
we are
cost about,
posting.
oh, sorry.
No, I'm making a stupid joke.
No, I like to hear it. I like stupid jokes. The mower cost about $7,500. I can't remember exactly. There's some other costs in this line, but the one thing we did do is bump this budget up a little bit because the understanding is there's some crumbling trail around the park. And we want to keep a little bit in there extra this year to see if we can get some of that repaired before June 30th. All right. Here's the 450,000 bucks I was talking about taking. So because we sold some capital projects or capital, right? We sold some capital items this year. We didn't use all our road budgets. Our salaries are coming a little bit less. We have some carryover that can be utilized next fiscal year. And it's right now it's estimated to be $453,537. I anticipate that'll be actually a little bit higher. That's also still putting money away into EMS and putting money away into snowplows, to roads capital projects, and to parks. And actually, I already see an error. I want to put this $453,000 into the roads capital projects. So down here, so make this $458,000. And I'll show you why here in a second. Brian, to your question, this first capital projects fund here, and for the rest of the council, we could look at putting different line items down here, like facilities repairs or rock wall, or we could really get granular. And this is the vehicle for cities our size to save money out of the general account for future year projects. Or we could set up more capital projects like we've got this one for EMS, and we can just keep setting up separate individual ones for EMS. And we got one for snow plowing. And let's get to roads. Okay, let's talk about roads. So put the 453,537 in roads. It can be saved there. We don't run into being over our 18% savings that we're not allowed to have and get a note from the state auditor telling us we save too much money. And parks. Okay, so let's get into the water account. Water still a little bit. We're just finishing our first year of the higher rates that the state had us do because of the loan we got with DW, the Department of Water. So I'm projecting it's gonna be close to 770,000. It'll be somewhere right in there. The question is it still cool up there, or are people watering more?
It's been a heat spell last, especially this week.
Using more or less?
More.
Or okay. So it'll be interesting to see where this comes. Now remember, on the enterprise fund, this is called an enterprise fund because it can be a profitable fund. This does not have to come out balanced like the general fund does. So if we come in at 750,000, we're still okay because we've got money we've carried over from previous years on the balance sheet. If it comes in at 790,000 collection, great. We collected $20,000 more. Wages went up a little bit because once again, balancing out Ted's salary and where it's coming from. But you noticed on the general fund, especially in the roads, it decreased by 20,000 at least. Health insurance went down because we only have one employee taking health insurance on that. Utilities. Utilities are actually coming a little bit less than had anticipated. We originally thought it was going to be about 80,000. We're projecting it'll be about 40 or 60,000. So that's a good thing. That's cutting back a little bit there. The ARPA, I was hoping.
Flip that over to the 3-phase, that should even come down further, right? Because it should be more efficient.
Yep.
Okay.
Thumbs up from Ted. Okay.
Perfect. The ARPA funds. I know that there's been talk about where to use those, but I just backed those out this year and put them into next year. And still plan on putting $120,000 away in savings. Yep. And that's it for the water. And then sewer projected to bring in about 106,000. Originally thought it was going to be 46,000 plus several homes. Plus there was those rate increases from Payson. We did do the sewer repairs this year to the tune of about 8,500. And I think that was a sound acoustic test. We did also raise the rates in this because we needed to cover repairs and maintenance. And then next year, I don't think it's in this year, it's next year, we're putting money aside for a savings account. I can't remember which one of you guys recommended that, but we were able to put that in. So that's the proposal for this year's budget. The only change on this printed version that you guys have versus what I should turn into the state auditor and make it the final budget is that $453,000 right here, taking that from capital projects and putting it down here in the roads, which it is already on the roads capital project page, 3 or 4 pages behind, just not on this page. And I would propose making that change if you guys didn't have any other changes.
Okay, any other questions for Chris?
No, just a comment. It's nice to finally have a little bit of money for roads. Something to put in there and save,
Amen.
because we need it.
Someday on the sewer topic, I think we're going to need a savings account. And you said there's a little one growing there.
Yep.
For putting sewer in more places.
Oh, I think it
mean,
was
that's
repairs.
millions.
Yeah.
That's millions, and we're only saving thousands. But I don't know. I just think the day is coming.
You're talking like when we're mandated to,
Yeah.
let's hope no time soon.
We got 20 mil somewhere, right?
Close to Vegas. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Any,
If you took $457,000 and bet on red, you could
Yeah,
Oh,
potentially,
Lose it.
I could do that.
the house always wins, right?
Don't pick the Chiefs again, though.
And we're not the house.
Not third time in a row.
there's a gentleman named Jarvis. I would rather have him do it than Doral or I. So
Yeah.
So if you take me with you, I'll lose, and the person next to me always wins.
Oh, so
We can
it's,
sit next to it.
So I don't know
Okay.
what
Yeah,
kind of
no
lucky
kidding.
charm that is, but
That's the key,
that's
though,
the
huh?
key.
Okay.
Mhm. So
Really?
we'll lose everything, but the person next to me will be the big winner.
Chris, I noticed
Every
some
time.
changes.
Lucky them.
In the original budget and the new proposal. And they weren't insignificant. I mean, in fire, it was $20,000, I believe. It was, which fire was it? Yeah, regular fire, it's like $21,000 higher than it was the original budget.
yeah, and that was this one right here where we had the Zions Bank note that we had to buy all the equipment for the new truck.
Okay.
It's a
So,
big chunk that was here.
I'm assuming these differences, I was kind of curious where the money comes from, because we don't see where you moved it from. Now, we also have a big increase in our revenue with the interest rate especially. Is that where you're getting those from? I mean, that's what I'm not seeing, is where those. you know,
The
when-
20 came from the loan, came from Zion, the fire.
Well, 16, 14 we were talking about today should have come from that. But again, we got $100,000 in interest that we hadn't planned on the original budget.
So
And
where did that go?
where did that go? Kind of where, I'm just kind of curious where some of these are, I mean, we look at total expenditures and we're 200,000 difference than what we had originally in the budget. Or a lot less on expenditures right now, so that's great. But I just want to make sure, where these things are getting, kind of where we're seeing those transfers from.
So in fund accounting, there's not per se transfers. We look at it as a whole fund in the general account. So yes, we had $110,000, almost $111,000 in sale of capital assets. And yes, we have had about another 100 and some odd $1,000 just in interest alone, just in those two. But we also have the loan receivable for the fire truck that's in there that helped offset some of those fire expenses. Plus we reduced some of the salaries and wages within the general, and it went over to the water account. So there's a lot of moving parts here. To tie it down specifically, that we got an extra, $20,000 here in unpaid property taxes. Where did that 20,000 specifically go? You're talking some minute micro accounting that would be significant to track and change, or to track every single penny and every single dime, even every single $1,000.
Yeah, we're so big right now looking at the whole budget. Usually when you are asking for changes, it's okay, we're taking money out of this line and moving it to this line, getting approval for that. That's kind of what I wasn't seeing, and I understand the numbers are working out right, and I just was kind of curious how these moved from where we had on our original proposed budget to this new revised budget. And if you can't explain, I mean, I understand that we're making those moves on a microscopic level, and we're looking more macroscopic here. So
Yeah, and I think Ben, at one time you'd asked that same question when you first got into council, where we really want to track I don't know how granular, Ben, you really wanted to get on that, but I think you had a similar question. Did that ever reconcile in your mind, or how did you
So-
come?
I actually, in our last training down in St. George, I went to the finance class and sat down, and finally I had an epiphany where they kind of went over, what is our role as a council from the financials, right? I'm used to personally looking at it from the executive level,
Yeah.
right? Looking at the finances of the companies that I have run or my own and seeing from the top to the bottom every single penny. And this is where my aha came in our training was they said really what you guys should be doing is looking at the movement of money, right? Where is it from last year to this year? Where are our trend lines? And seeing it from that angle and trusting and supporting our staff to be in the weeds. And they said if you see something that doesn't make sense, it's our right and privilege and obligation to ask those questions. But that's kind of where I got to answer your question, Chris, that's kind of where I got my epiphany was, you know what? If I'm not seeing anything red flag, saying, hey, Chris is socking money away somewhere, then I should just be good, right? Now I'm looking at it, I'm going over it and all of those things. I'm assuming also, Chris, that, 480-40 or 48-40 there, your $453,537 to roads is probably picking up a lot of that slack that we're then dropping into roads next year, right?
And I just made, and you guys can do whatever you want the money for right now. And talking with, when I present this to the mayor, just going to put it in the roads for right now, but you guys can break that out and put it wherever you want to. And that's the beauty of the way we're doing. The city of Woodland Hills does their budget is if you guys want to change it around, I'm going to pop up the budget form in my accounting program. I'll make those changes live right with us right now before you guys vote on that for the 2025 budget.
So is there a way of seeing, again, and I'm looking at it from making sure that money isn't getting pulled away, right? Somewhere that we don't know. We look at the capital budgets, and when we transfer money into those capital budgets, we don't know what's there. What's the total? What is, in those, we just see the money going into it. So is there a way for us to get a report of where our savings are, where, those capital projects that we've put away for? And
Absolutely. That's a great idea. I'll send you spreadsheets.
okay.
Yep. That's a great idea. I can tell you fire zero,
Yeah, I
but,
would hope-
and EMS is like 20,000 plus some interest.
oh,
but
that's
yes,
actually
Brian, I can share that with
buffer
you.
that I would have expected, but that's good for us to know is, what's there now, and not that we want to take it and move it somewhere else, but when those projects are, when do we start looking at it? When do we start saying it's the time to start looking at those projects?
Chris,
we also-
one thing. Oh, sorry.
We also have something called a fund balance. Just by the mere fact, so this revised budget for 6 of 2024, this is not the way it's going to end up. Like I said, I think it's going to be higher. And this is how we were able to do the fiber with the previous mayors, with Toby and some of the other mayors. They just kept socking it away in capital projects. And then when it was time to pull the trigger, boom, they had the $1.8 million or whatever it was to get the fiber done. Because in a perfect world, this budget would end up this way, but it is definitely not going to end up this way.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and that's where I wanted to see more. Maybe I need to back off a little bit.
No, not at all. Do not back
You're
off.
fine. Keep
Do
asking.
not back off.
One of the
Seriously.
best ways I've found is if you have like a specific question, pop in and talk to Lori.
And
Right.
I've teamed, Chris and I have Zoom meetinged, and he's gone through this stuff with me before, but I didn't have an opportunity. I didn't make an opportunity. How's that sound for this one?
So, Chris, one thing that I did also learn that I think would be very beneficial for us is I don't know if you can create a report for us that is high level, that basically is, say, for the last 5 years, what percentage of our budget is going to each of your different, large categories. So, what percentage of our budget each year has gone, say, for the last 5 years, gone to roads? What percentage of our budget has gone to fire for the last 5 years? What percentage? And that way we can kind of just see. So kind of like a bar graph, 2020, what percentage of the total budget was on fire, and then the next year, what percentage, so we can kind of see that percentage change through time. I think that would also help us from a macro level look at where are we allocating, because really for me, this budget has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with dollars, it has nothing to do with anything beyond what is, as a council and as the mayor, what is our priorities. And so from a percentage of budget, I think we can kind of see what is the prioritization that we're seeing through this budgetary decision-making process that we're going through. Where are we allocating these funds so that when we have residents ask us, where is all our money going? We can say, hey, 20% of our budget goes to fire, 20% goes to, and we can actually have those high level percentage numbers that would really help us be able to answer some quick questions pretty easy without having to dig into the weeds of, well, there was 10,000 for this. And it was like, well, that's
Yeah.
a discussion that we can have, and we need to be able to be informed on that, but not necessarily what I think a lot of people are looking for.
So the past couple of years during the truth and taxation, I've put those pie charts together so you can see that a certain percentage was going to here and a certain percentage was going to there. I can go back over the last 5 years and look at it, but I do need to throw out some outliers because it's going to really skew it. And one of them is going to be obviously the burn scars. I guess we'd start in 2019, but any of the big outliers I'd like to take out because that's going to really skew it. Maybe I can just make a note.
Yeah, I think an asterisk here and there. I think I'd just love to know, what, when we sit down for budget, really what I'm looking at is what is our priorities as a city, right? This year, I think it's been, what are we going to do on roads this coming year, right? How are we going to now take care of that? What are we doing with the water, the pumps, the station, all of these different things. I think from a high level percentage based of budget tells a story really well for us versus just all these numbers,
Oh, and it also tells us if things we put in place are helpful.
effective.
So you hired Ted, and it's a whole new ballgame with Ted, right? And does that turn into, benefit for the city? And that we're managing things better and we can watch those trends. I think that's definitely a good thing to see.
Yeah, well, and what you'll see there too is completion of projects.
Yes.
Which we lacked.
Well, one thing I find helpful as I sit on other boards is I love this percent. I love to know how long is the year gone and what percent are we? And then I look if something's like we're at 30% of the year, but 80% has been spent. I look at why. Oh, okay, that's insurance. So we've probably got our insurance bill up front for property insurance early. But if it's 80% on roads, and you're like, I don't see any changes in roads. That's great. Well, Chris, why is there so much spent in October? And we spent 80% of our budget on roads, and the roads, nothing's been done. So I hope that this percent column is easy for you guys to just go through on a high level also each time.
Although a total amount skews it because you can see a big percentage and then you look at it, it's only a couple $1,000. A couple grand in there.
I think this is looking great. Thank you.
So this is 2024, Mayor.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. You want me to keep going, move on to the next one?
Yeah, unless anybody has any other commentary, questions. All right, proceed, please.
Okay, just as a reminder, let's look at the columns. 2021's actual, so that ended June 2021, ended June 2022, ended June 2023. Our revised budget that we were just talking about, assuming that you guys voted on it. I'm going to jump to the mayor. This is the mayor's first budget that he proposed, and then the city council, you guys went ahead and made a few changes. I went ahead and put a few more changes in here that I want to highlight. One of the biggest ones that I want to talk about is our property taxes. I did receive last week the amount of tax that the state projects we will receive for property taxes, and it's actually $983,940. So it's about $18,000 higher than the truth and taxation that was being proposed here with the mayor. So I would recommend the city does not need to hold a truth and taxation hearing. and does not need to keep the tax rate level and just to accept the tax rate being proposed by the state of Utah. That's good news. And that's really the biggest change. The rest of the changes in here, like Doral sent me an email, Ben, you sent me an email, Janet, you guys all sent me emails for little this, that, and the other. And I just included those updated amounts from special service districts, 911, and that kind of stuff in here. Otherwise, the budget really has not changed a whole lot. So let's, if it's okay, I can go through this quickly unless you have questions. And we'll just look at the totals here. And so the total here between what the mayor originally proposed to what is happening today is the property tax increase. Really nothing there, no changes there, no changes there, no changes there, no changes there. Here's the big one, another big one. This is bringing back in the 457,537 from this current year that we put over on capital projects and then bringing it back into next year's budget to be spent. And I'll show you the proposed expenses here in just a moment. No changes in the council wages or government. No, let's see, looks like a little change happened here. I don't know if that's $1,500 that we're talking about, but I can try and find it real quick. It's right here. Elections. Jody's fault. Actually went down a little bit. Thanks, Jody, you reduced it.
Not even-
We're not going to have elections. Save money.
Okay, really nothing changed. So that was really the big changes, the property tax. Then let's get down into police. And we originally had put in $20,000 for dispatch fees, but it looks like the quote was coming in just about under $6,000 for us next year. And then Wayne had asked that we have a little bit of money set aside for enforcement legal work that we may need done. So we're proposing putting 10,000 in there that can be utilized for legal work by an attorney for enforcement issues. That's one change that's happened since the last time we talked. Nothing happened with fire wages or supplies or fuel reduction in supplies or EMS. Animal control originally had projected 7,000 and it's coming in just about 3,000. So that went down. So those are the biggest changes in that section. Roads. So this is kind of exciting if you want to keep it this way, but it's being proposed that we take that $457,000, add it to what was already going to be in the roads next year and give us $696,741 plus $105,000 in Class C road funds. So you're looking at over $750,000 that could be spent in addition on other projects, not just roads, but that's where we're throwing it for now. That could get a lot of the capital pavement plan knocked out.
That'll be great.
And then once again, you guys can, we can set a budget hearing. Well, the mayor once again has the right to move the budget anywhere within the 44s. So he could move that, you know, if you guys want to put it in parks for some reason, or if you want to move it to like fire, then we'd hold a public hearing to do it.
Be a nice
Sherry,
Yeah,
they could do a lot of good with that.
just do the whole part.
Yeah, we have one.
So that's the biggest change there.
Yeah.
Nothing in there. And then snow plowing. What did we do in snow plowing that changed it? It looks like Ted, we're going to buy that blower in next year's budget.
That will probably be the case. It'll be, it's been ordered, but it's going to be, you know, several weeks, if not a few months before we get it.
Okay, so we put that in next year's budget. And so that's where that changed. Let's see, parks changed a little bit. Oh, because we didn't quite know if we're going to be able to get all the repairs and maintenance done on that trail. So we left some money in it next year just in case. And nothing different in savings. So, yeah, that's kind of exciting.
Hey, Chris, this is Wayne. I've got a question. At what point in time, how is the assessment made by the county for calculation of property taxes? If a home is built and it's not sold to the first buyer for months and months and months, what time, what point in time is that property tax calculated for collection and, in our case, return to the city? Do you know?
That is a good question. I don't know the exact time. I do remember hearing some trainings that the assessors look about every 3 years at the property values in different locations, but I don't know when the trigger's pulled when a house just sits vacant, and isn't sold.
Okay, maybe Ben's here with us. I want and maybe Janet knows when that first property tax, what point in time is that done?
Well, it's when they assess in August, if it's completed, then it'll be assessed at the higher rate. If it's not completed, then it stays at the lot price for another year.
So does the assessor just go around to the homes or is there something that they know there's a new home here that they've got to assess now? How, do you know how that's done?
I don't know. They do have a trigger though. They know when they're completed, because what happens, and I just know this from my job, right? Like when they have a construction loan, when I close one, I have to tell them that your property taxes could change twice, because there's an estimated one that the lender has that's super high. And then depending on if it stays at the lower amount than the county, then you're going to have a huge refund. But then the next year, you're actually going to get the actual property tax. So sometimes it just depends on the timing of construction. If they're not done by July, then the following year, it's probably still taxed at the lower rate until that next July when they assess. Does that make sense?
Kinda. Okay.
So in my last house build, we had the county stop by 2 or 3 different times to take a look at progress, and yeah.
Jody,
Okay.
do you have to give a copy of the building permit to the county? I know we pay a 2% sales tax to the state of Utah on every building permit. I don't know if they reverse engineer the costs of that and figure out the square footage of the house, or
Required every month to provide the county with copies of our building permits that have been issued for that month.
So that's how they know which houses to come to. That's a good question.
Okay, Chris.
okay, capital projects, nothing exciting next year, just keeping it at 0 for specific capital projects, but fire, once again, putting 10,000 away in savings. EMS putting 10,000 away. And once again, these are for typically apparatus, but doesn't have to be. Snow Pine putting 10,000 away. And roads, let's look at roads here. This is going to look a little bit artificially inflated because of the $453,000, but we're going to appropriate out of our fund balance, which is basically the savings account, $900,000. 457 of that's going to be transferred back, being proposed to be transferred back into the general account to be used on roads. 330 plus for Loafer Drive. We do have some more left on the balance sheet. I think I have to get back to those numbers, Wayne, that you and I and somebody else went over, but enough to get, there's enough on there to get Loafer Drive done with Summit Creek's help on that. And then we've got the UDOT grant, and I don't know if that UDOT grant's got to be spent in a certain time, but we're still having that $116,000 riding out on that. Capital projects, parks, just putting 1,000 away, and then water, kind of just keeping water level. But there's been a few changes. You got the revenues are projected to stay the same, but then we came through and changed a few things, lining up the employee benefits with more realistic expectations that's going to happen with retirement and FICA, and then a little bit change the computer software. Putting back in the ARPA funds to finally spend that money. I think we have to spend it by next September 2025, or we have to send it back. And those are the main items on water that were changed. And then let's look at sewer here. Sewer, the revenue stayed the same, but the difference is, Doral, and this was that 4,000 that you guys as council wanted me to put in, and there it is, as just kind of a, what we're calling depreciation expense, but it's the savings. we'll know a lot better this year when fiscal year 24 is over, and probably around September, October, I'll have a more of a firm balance. And if there's a carryover there, we can go ahead and, at your request, we can put that in a savings account and fatten that up just a little bit, because they're going to be, something's breaking right now in the sewer system and we just don't know it. And then that is it.
So quick question, one other that's popped into my head earlier that I forgot.
Brian, is your mic on?
Yeah, maybe I need to get closer.
Oh, there
Can
we
you
go.
hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So when we get a grant that we have got a match for, that we've got a cash match for, are you segregating that money somehow that we know where it's at, or is it coming out of the general fund? Because that's something I was curious about too, because we've got some of those that are coming up. We've got the trails grant that we've got some expense due on that as well, some matching side.
If and when we get those grants, I'll put them in here into this fund 40 under capital projects. So we'll put the revenue in here and the expense and lock it up.
So we transfer it out of wherever, out of the general fund into there.
Yeah.
So to speak.
And there's a little bit of a balance in this capital projects we've been carrying over since our last big capital project, which was the fiber. Not much, but when a match comes up, we have to restrict that cash. Then we'll put it in one of these accounts here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Thank you, Chris.
Got one more. Sorry, getting you guys a headache here. Is this the next resolution 24-19?
Chris, we forgot the ordinance approving the compensation increases.
Yeah,
You've
I'm
done
just-
the resolution adopting the 2024-25 one and the resolution amending the 23-2024, but we need to do the ordinance 2024-18. There you go.
Just had to find the right page here. Okay, so I apologize to Jody. I didn't get this to her soon enough. But this is a new requirement by the state wanting to know the salary increase is being proposed for employees from one year to the next. And so this is 2024-18 that we're talking about specifically here. 2024-18. So Joe, what about 2024-18 and 2024-19? Is there do it for this year and next year?
Supposed to be 2024-19, but let me check on that. I don't know why it's 18.
Okay,
We
the one,
should be on ordinance number 2024-19.
okay, and that's what it is in the council packet. You sent me this last week, so things may have changed.
Yes.
But the actual numbers, which is important here in Exhibit A, this is what's not on 2024-19 that the council has. And I will go ahead and send this over to you guys so you have a copy for your own records. What's being proposed, and we look at the Department of Workforce Services cost of living adjustments. And when we looked at it, the latest they had was comparing March 2023 to March 2024, which was about a 3.4% COLA increase. So we stuck with that. Proposing that these employees, so EMT captain, director of finance, public works director, recorder, part-time seasonal workers, snowplow drivers, treasurer, and zoning enforcement officer receive the 3.48% cost of living increase, plus a merit increase because they're just so awesome there of 1.52% for a total of a 5% salary increase this year. There's an asterisk to this. It's also being proposed that the EMT captain, that her current salary is $6,000 a year, be bumped up to $9,000. And Wayne doesn't know this yet, but Wayne's salary going from $7,000 to $10,000. So instead of 40 cents an hour, he makes 42 cents an hour. So I want to throw those out because it's not really, they're not going to be affected by COLA. It's not like they're going to get the 9,000 plus 3.48%. But just a general, yes, there's a raise going to both those individuals. Once again, very blessed to have both of them doing the jobs for free. So that is the ordinance 2024-19 that you guys will look at later.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the raises. I just think it's interesting that the people that have to approve them are not on that list. And then we'll get the heat for them, you know what I mean?
Oh, you know what, Jody? We probably should put mayor and city council in here.
No, I'm not asking for a raise. It
No.
was just being
No,
funny.
You
making
should
a
put
funny
them in and
comment.
lay them out zero, so
At
we
zero.
remember how much we were raised.
Yeah, I think they should go in there.
I mean,
And do a no, are we raising them or are we doing a no increase? And that's up for the council to decide.
we've been this
Just
rate for
keeping
12
in
years.
mind that it has not been raised in 12 years.
That's right.
We're the lowest paid council and mayor. I've looked through the wages. I personally,
I don't
Don't
want to
want
raise,
one.
I just, you know me, I always have a snarky comment. I'm just saying,
right.
I'm not opposed to these. I just thought it was interesting
Well,
that the people that are
I-
going to get yelled at by the citizens aren't on there.
For public view, I would like us to be listed and see zeros across.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
You know, just
Yeah.
don't hide it, especially if it's zero.
So here's what I'll do. While you guys are talking about your other things, I will add the city council into here. I will also go back and change 2024's budget to move that $453,000 down to the roads. And send that to you also for your own records. And then when you get to the vote tonight, you'll have the most up-to-date items on those two. Is that fair?
Chris,
Add
do
the
you
mayor
want,
as well, but yeah.
Chris, do you want me to edit the ordinance to take into consideration the city council and mayor on there?
That would be awesome. If you could do that real quick before they vote on it, that would be great.
Yeah.
Whew. Chunky.
Okay. So you're so smart and you explained to us already about we don't need a truth in taxation.
Yes.
Tell me again what our rate will end up doing. Can I say we're keeping taxes the same, we're lowering, or we're raising?
That is a trick question that I would run from because,
Because I don't know how to answer that.
well, no, because what if somebody got assessed? Let's say
Oh.
last year the house was only 800,000 and this year it got assessed 850 and you told them their taxes
Yeah.
were going down. What we're doing is you guys would be accepting, you're not increasing our tax rate. You're accepting what the state is giving us, which in theory should keep your taxes level as they were last year unless you got assessed a higher amount.
Okay, so
So don't answer it.
Well,
is
well,
NEBA
some-
or the county?
some
increasing
might be worth less
we
and
haven't
it
u-
go down.
Yeah, I know, but you've got Nebo School District rebuilding a couple of high schools, so they're going to assess
Oh.
more.
They need to be glass
We
and,
can't
you know,
control that.
steel too.
But the rate, I think, is a fair question. I mean, it's sometimes lost because values
Yeah.
fluctuate, but I think that the rate is a fair question. And I mean, we were going to keep it the same, and so our rate is with respect to what the state has recommended. It's
So what I think our rate this year is, I'd have to look at it, 3,435 or something like that. The state is saying, no, we can bump it down to 3,321 and get you close to what you guys got last year. Now, remember, we've closed new homes and homes have been assessed and some homes may have been deassessed or gone down. I think Wayne, maybe your home last year, your taxes went down a little bit. And
We are lowering our tax rate.
yeah. So, and I don't know if this, I actually took a screenshot of this. I think that our current rate is 0.003431.
But I don't think the thing is the level of understanding, it's just hard because they're not going to understand. Their taxes will probably still go up even though we're holding our rate.
Okay, yeah. that's
What they
true.
pay will
Yeah.
very possibly go
Yeah,
up.
and so they'll be, yeah, we're not raising it, but we can't control what the county does. I
Or the
think that's
school
best
district.
answer.
or the,
But we don't need a hearing. Is that what you're telling me? We don't need a truth,
Correct.
which is really good.
Yeah, no, I was thrilled to hear that,
Yeah.
we're in line with what the recommendation is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something where, we're doing what we have to do to keep the lights on.
So let's look at this. This is last year. So we are, yeah, 3431. Our assessed value for the whole city of Woodland Hills was 275,135,600. And then they base that, they take the tax rate, and we got, originally our tax rate was going to be 0.3232 and bring us 889,000. Council voted to keep it level. I think it's really what it was. And it got us 943,000. This is last year. Let's
Last
jump
year we did raise it though.
a
Yeah,
little bit.
We did
we
increase
kicked
it.
our rate. Yeah.
'Cause
Okay, so
we
we're
took it
about-
on the chin last year for that, even though people's payments did go down. At least some people's did, but we
Yeah.
did raise the rate.
So the valuation of Woodland Hills went from 275 million to 296,270. So the valuation went significantly up. I mean, it almost went up $25 million. And so they're saying, okay, well, your tax rate can be this, and we'll still get you close to what it would have been last year had you kept the tax rate.
But as a technical matter concerning the rate, we are lowering it, right, Chris, from last year's?
From
The
34 to
the
31.
city's
33.
rate, not the
Mhm.
overall rate, which would include Nebo and,
Yeah, only
yeah,
the city.
and- Yeah, so at the city's rate, I don't want to give you a statement that then turns out to be inaccurate, but that's the way I understand it, is that our city rate is actually going down with this
I was
recommended.
going to run door to door and advertise that.
Yeah, say, get ready for your tax breaks. You're getting
Then-
big breaks, yep.
Hopefully their house wasn't assessed higher value. That's the key, with they
Right.
assess higher value. Because really it is going down from a 3431 to 3321.
And I remember it was a previous council, because my monthly bill went up significantly, and I remember talking to Dave Pratt and Bob Otley, and they said, well, actually, you got a tax decrease, and so, but it sure didn't feel like one.
That's why I say you just have to be careful because people don't understand. And if you say, well,
Yeah.
we cut our rate, they're going to think their taxes are going down.
Yeah, I've been there.
When
Yeah.
they could go up, even though we cut our rate.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Just
It's
don't believe your
complex.
lying eyes.
I mean,
Comment.
that door.
The best
And
comment
this is based on
is,
how much revenue we told the county that
We needed, yep.
right?
Go ahead, Jody.
the best comment is that the city will not be holding a
Yeah,
truth and taxation
positive.
hearing, and we're accepting the rate that the county is assigning us.
There you go.
Well said.
There you go. I know. And I'll add at the end, and you're going to love it.
Call
So-
Jody. She loves more phone calls.
If you guys wanted to commit political suicide, you could go and raise it to as high as it'll go, which is 0.007, and it gets you almost $2.1 million.
Oh, yeah. Then
And
we
it-
can raise the council wage.
Then we can go, and you go anywhere in between. If we did a 0.004,
Guaranteed not to get reelected.
I wouldn't be opposed to keeping it exactly the same as it was last year. and
34.
adding more to our Roads budget.
But then you need,
Not increasing the tax.
but then
But
you
we still
need,
have to hold the truth in taxation if we do that, because we're above what the
Oh, that's
recommended rate.
kind of
is.
handy. You
that's
can just plug it in.
yeah.
But
So-
we're actually, we're getting, like, I think, Chris, you said $20,000 more than what we were anticipating. Even
Yes.
take the state's rate, recommended rate. So, I mean, it seems to me a win-win.
As long as we're not going to force us into a bigger tax increase in the future, in the near future.
I
to
agree.
maintain our- That's the only thing I worry about, because even little ones, there's a lot of
more year.
fight. But a bigger tax
See, we
increase
could
would
act
even be more fight.
We
And
should
then
really drop it.
we'd need a lot on our roads. I mean, as long as this is going to maintain our roads with the
Mayor
way
doesn't
that
appreciate our
Ted is
feedback. No,
working,
he doesn't.
then
Nobody.
And that's the way I see it is operationally, we are running at peak efficiency.
Hey, I trust you.
Well.
I trust you and your team.
I don't know, well, yeah, they're deserving of your trust, but I just think that, I mean, I don't even want to go and say that, I mean, but I mean, after, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, after a couple of years of seeing, I mean, you're gonna have surprises that come up, but after a couple of years, I actually think that we can really revisit this in a meaningful way and say, okay, we are falling behind in this piece. I mean, because, there's never enough, but but I do think that, I think right now it's a little premature to be able to make that call, but that, I mean, it may
We've-
result in a tax decrease. I
Yeah,
mean, it
we've
may,
kinda
either we've
got
got
a-
surplus.
a $500,000 windfall for our roads to get us started on this plan, and now Ted can give you a plan next year. This is what we need to do to continue on this plan, and we put that into this is how much we need from the county. So I think it's great as long as we're where we need to be, and we're not going to.
Well, you're not
cause us
where you
to have-
need, we're not where we need to be. But usually what's happened in the past is the tax rate would go down and the revenues would go down at the same time. And that's where the city got in trouble. This year, the tax rate's going down, but they're actually keeping at least level, if not a little bit more money. So I think we're okay this year, but we're still behind a lot of stuff. But with what Ted's working on, Ted's going to be the master of everything. Ted,
But honestly,
you're the man.
That is a lot of pressure.
difference-
I hope you're up to it.
the difference wasn't enough to hold a truth it's the taxation meeting.
So depending on what you guys vote on tonight, we'll either certify this tonight or we would already have a truth and taxation hearing set up in August. I'd like to beat the school districts to it because they can only hold one a night. But it would be sure nice to send the county and say, you know what? Council voted not to have it.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Please, I'm begging you, as the guy who has to conduct that.
Oh, never mind.
I think we should have one just for fun.
Let's go to an even
I don't think
004.
the mayor- I told Doral, I said, I don't think the mayor appreciates our humor tonight.
Yeah.
So we're over here
I
cracking jokes. Ben's over here being quiet.
Well, taxes are no laughing matter.
They're not.
I'm just joking.
You don't laugh, you cry. So you might as well laugh.
All right. Okay, unless there are other comments, I think that's everything we needed from you, right, Chris?
For now.
And thanks for knowing what you're doing. That really
Yeah.
helps us.
Yes.
For sure. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get to work on some of this stuff.
Okay.
6. Okay, item 8. Ben, that's you.
Yes. Now I promised Jody that I was going to redraft this a little bit and completely failed because I've been really busy. So the only addition I think we were going to talk about though is a number 4 on this. So we're talking about a free-ish utilization of the building and the pavilion, but it has certain criteria. So those criteria would be 1, the event needs to be non-exclusive to the full extent of that definition, meaning it cannot exclude anybody. The event needs to be a non-profit based, and the event must be benefit to all residents of the community. And number 4 was proposed, and I apologize that we didn't get it in, was that they would also then need a council member sponsor. And then we as a council, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'd love to use the building under this clause, you can then go with that individual through these criteria. And then you would also be the one who would be here to open the building, so we're not passing that burden on to our staff in any capacity. And then also to be here to lock it up. Just kind of check in. You don't have to be here with the event, but if you don't want to, you can say, hey, you know what? I don't know if it falls under, but you can.
Early morning
Call Ben.
pickleball in there with a little net.
You were also assessed damages.
I believe the other one thing was that you wanted to make sure that this benefit was only available to residents of the city.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, but we won't be able to vote on that tonight, right? Because we didn't have this as part of our public agenda.
I believe it
As
was part of the
revised.
public hearing. Number 4 of your public hearing was for
Number
this.
4
fee
on the
schedule.
public hearing included the city fee schedule, so you can make these minor tweaks to the resolution
Okay,
and still adopt it.
okay.
The only thing I was uncomfortable with was no deposit. I mean, deposits are harmless to pay unless you destroy something. And that's the way I look at them. So I think that would give you a lot more protection in the city. If something's ruined, you've got ways to fix it without going back and charging the council person that was in charge of it.
Well, I think, yeah, people are more careful if they know they have a $500, not necessarily 500, but whatever, like a deposit at stake.
And I believe per our last conversation, that was one reason we brought in they must be a resident of the city. And then
That's just,
Right? You could bill them. if
it's
they
up
were-
to you. I don't care if you don't do it, but,
Yeah.
and it is a,
How many residents don't do what they're supposed to do?
who is that guy back there?
is that kind of like the resident that works for free when he should take a wage? So those would be my proposals.
Okay.
For that, I would, prefer to potentially revise this in the future per my thoughts. If that ends up being a need, if we have abuse, then I'd love to slap it with a deposit. But I'd rather
Okay.
hold off on that.
Well, and I get it.
instead of-
I mean, really, I believe what this is coming from is the Be Ready group.
That would
right?
be the primary.
And no one's going to want to fork up a $500 deposit for. a
That's
group like
true,
that.
especially every meeting.
Every single
That would
month.
be a pain.
That would really be a pain. So I get that. I just, again, worry about other,
Well, I think the
Groups.
caveat needs to be that they know that we will bill them if there's any damage. We can bill.
Yeah, and
We know where they
frankly,
live.
so we had somebody that used the building under these guidelines, and it was like, hey, do you have any kids? So I grilled her, who's going to be here? What's going to be the purpose? What do and they were doing, it was a nonprofit that was making blankets for a shelter or primary children. I don't know exactly but she hit and everybody's welcome. There was a whopping 3 people here, and so I think it's going to be a very finite group that can actually hit this. Some will say, hey, you know what? I want the empty nesters to be able to use the building, and I believe we're non-exclusive. And then that's where we get to say, well, you actually are exclusive, though you are welcome to use the building. You'll just need to use it per the normal structure and fee schedule, So I don't think it will be very, very large. But if it does end up finding that, this gets out there and people start finding ways to use the building, and if there's abuse, then I think we
Early
rapidly
morning football.
adjust this quickly.
I was thinking squash.
You just get a portable net. It's not a hard floor. You just think it better.
I think we should.
Right. I think there
Let us
needs to,
know. Get it on the schedule. Yeah.
I think there needs to be an understanding too, that the basement is off limits and this council room is off limits. I mean, there's a feature here that a lot would like, come in and with the TV and put things up there and look at them. But yeah, I think it'll just create problems that we don't need with the system in doing that. And as long as everybody has an understanding of that, I think that's a good thing to add to the caveat.
Well, and I think along with that also is, that requires us as a member of the council to show up and unlock the building, right? We can't just give our number to them and let them in. And that will also, help whether you want to tackle that project with them or not. So we're holding a lot of
So
the
how do you-
gatekeeping here.
How do you say no?
Will you just say, hey, it doesn't really fall into this,
What if it does? But you don't want to be the council person.
then you just say that. You just say, hey, if this won't work with my schedule, so I won't be able to assist you, but you're welcome to reach out to one of the other council
Yeah,
members
you text and ask. Anyone can help.
or have them do it. I would push it onto them personally. Say, I won't be able to service this. You may have an option here. You'll just need to find a council member that can help you. Right? The burden is on the individual to prove this. It's not on us trying to help facilitate this exercise. If they can't find one of us, then their option is they can still use the building under the other fee schedule.
Yeah.
But they have to convince one of us.
I also have concerns about the deposits, but I do understand it, and I think this needs to be
It makes sense.
very limited for those types of organizations that are that need that. It's, I just think I understand what you're trying to do here.
For me, the hardest burden of proof for them to persuade us on would be that this is a benefit to all residents of the community, and they'll have to make that case. So I don't think it'll be an easy use case.
It's not easy to me. Give you an example. We had 2 people that served in the fire department for 25 years. And they benefited the whole community and they wanted to use it for a dinner or a lunch or something. To me, it's justified, but it's probably not.
Well,
So,
you would have to see, is it
you know how I-
exclusionary?
How I see, yeah. And
If they want to open it up to the entire city and
Oh,
create
yeah.
a nonprofit,
yeah, it was,
then and serve a
okay.
When you say nonprofit, we're not expecting them to be certified nonprofit, right?
that's I would say to the council members' discretion.
Okay.
For me, I'll push them personally that they should have a nonprofit entity, whether they're in conjunction with them or that they've created one themselves.
Okay.
But I would say all of this is up to the council members' discretion. Because really, it's you showing up, it's you letting them in, it's you then chasing them down if there's damage. Like, I want the burden to sit with us, and if a resident wants to make this thing work, I say we should eliminate the barriers as much as we can to allow them to use it if it's a highly beneficial thing, but they need to prove that. That's
Okay.
it for me.
Thank you. Okay, item 9, final plat approval of Summit Creek G4.
Now we know why Ben's here.
Did you want to move it to last, Ben?
Ouch.
He knows we like him.
So, Ben, are you leading off, or Wayne, did you have something you wanted to say on this, or?
Gotta have a microphone.
Only the planning commission has reviewed it and has approved it. Everyone voted in favor unanimously of approving it. So we were happy with the presentation that was made. Let Ben go ahead and make.
Yeah, if you'd just maybe give an overview of the nature of your request.
So it's G4. This area was approved as a plat approved, I can't remember, a couple of years ago and just lapsed. We didn't do anything, and so the plat expired. So this is a resubmittal with some minor adjustments to that original plan of the same basic area. And so it's that same private driveway that goes along the back of the lots. It's a shared driveway. It's all private. HOA will maintain all of it, just like the rest of that road, that Nebo Circle. It's 6 new lots. There's a 7th lot included in there that has a home already on it, where we adjusted some property lines to add a little more acreage or square footage to the lot of that existing home. And then there's 6 vacant lots that are part of it. So 201 through 206 are lots that will be for sale, could be built on. And then 207 is that lot where there was a home that already existed. We just added a little more square footage to the lot, taking some out of the adjacent lot. So yeah, that's about it, unless you have any questions.
So these are very interesting layouts. If this is the one I'm thinking of, where you have the back entrance but a front door.
Mm-hmm.
No sidewalks on that, right? No walkways.
No, not on, no.
On that front door.
Well, so the Sunny Ridge Lane, that private drive on the back is basically the rear lot, rear of the lot.
Yeah.
But the way that the homes can be built, you could have your entrance to the garage and then a sidewalk that could kind of come down the side of the house to the front door.
To the front door.
Yeah.
Okay, that, it was kind of, when I saw it, it's a really interesting layout because there's no walk from the road up to the,
Right.
for
Yeah.
deliveries and,
Yeah, the idea was to, number one was just to limit driveways exiting on Summit Creek Drive.
Yep.
Just with
Thank you.
congestion, yeah. And so this was the solution, was to add that private drive, but still have the homes technically front Summit Creek Drive.
but are there addresses on that private lane? I mean, I'm thinking about Amazon driving up or
Right.
UPS driving up. and
Yeah, it'll be
walking
a Sunny
across the
Ridge.
Grass and things
Oh,
like that.
I thought you were thinking like EMS and fire.
Well,
response,
EMS
too.
and fire, we're gonna go through the grass. I mean, we'd prefer to go
Right.
through across a driveway as well,
Right.
but
Yeah,
The addresses will be Sunny Ridge.
I believe so. Yeah, that makes sense because that's where they would walk to the front
Oh,
door to
yeah.
drop the packages off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now this connects both on that Nebo Circle,
It
right?
does.
So we'll have access
Yep.
for fire and EMS to go to that back way without having a turnaround.
And I believe there's two added fire hydrants, one on each end.
Okay.
And if I remember right, there was a kind of a designated lane through there.
There
kind of
is. It's like
fire
a-
lane that they can't block.
It's like a 40-foot right of way. Not all that's going to be asphalt, but then part of the asphalt, I think, is like 26 feet wide. And half of that so there's no parking. There's a note on the plat, no parking at all on that Sunny Ridge lane. And then half of that will be marked in some way that says fire lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an interesting layout
Yep.
and I'd not seen that before, but I'm not a builder, so.
We like to be innovative, come up with-
Yeah, absolutely.
Just kidding.
And what are the setbacks on these lots? I'm assuming the Summit Creek Drive, is that the rear setback
No, hold on.
or is that the frontage setback?
That's the front. And so the back setback includes that driveway.
Okay.
That's part of the rear setback. It's
Okay.
included in that. So yeah, it's R119 in the Mountain Villa overlay.
But even though it's not accessible from Summit Creek Drive, that is the front.
That's the
of
front.
house.
That's
Yeah.
the frontage.
So it's,
Okay.
it's an interesting layout. It
Yeah.
really is.
I'm just thinking of, we've got a few ordinances that delineate frontage by like the front door. Like our fencing ordinance, things of that nature. How would this interact with that, Wayne?
We have a restriction on fences, that there will be no fences
Yep.
in the front yard that will detract from those houses along Summit Creek. We've also asked, there'll be a restriction on no swimming pools along there as well. So we want to keep that a nice looking area flowing through that from Summit Creek Drive.
So it's not going to look daybreakish.
Be no clothes hanging or things like that.
I don't live
Nope.
there, but wow,
I don't, they're not going to be house on top of house,
right.
right? What is the acreage on these lots?
These are like a third.
They're thirds, so
Yeah.
they're fairly tight.
These are more of what we call our villa lots, just for smaller footprint, smaller product that we can offer.
And Daybreak's a great place if you want to live in Daybreak.
Good save.
We're just not Daybreak. Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
I like the innovation. As long as the setbacks, with having the driveway in the back and the rear, as long as it's clearly delineated that the Summit Creek Drive is the frontage setback, I don't see a problem.
How much, I'm just curious. So a third of an acre home on here, like what's gonna be the price range?
For the lot or with a home?
Well, with a home.
It might be in the $1 million range, somewhere in there.
How much is the lot if they were just buying?
I don't know. I'm not on the sales side of it so much. But probably the 200s, 200 to 300, somewhere in there.
I just was curious.
Yeah. It's a good question. I just, it's Bucky, it's his department.
Yeah.
Down in Four Seasons, you're looking at about a little bit more acreage for around 329,000. So I would guess you're probably 250, north of 250.
If you'd like to buy one, come on down.
She would.
I mean, I have an acre,
Nice.
so I'm all right.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Item 10, request of Sherry Berger to remove the declaration of covenants, conditions, or restrictions filed against her property with the Utah County Recorder's Office as entry 58091, 2017 on June 15, 2017. So I know that all of you were part of the email. We looked into it. It doesn't, I mean, we want to make sure that there's council concurrence on this, but it doesn't look like, I think, what do we have it as I guess we've got it as, yeah, concurrence. So it seems, in talking to Jody, and correct me if I'm misstating this, Jody, please, there's just going to be a removal of that, the declaration, and it should be a relatively simple fix. So we were trying to figure out why it was imposed to begin with, and
We used to have a road that we would loop around to turn us around before the cul-de-sac was developed. There was a loop there, at least that I remember. And we'd run our fire trucks up and around the loop, and there's a hydrant up at the top of it.
yeah, no, that's
That
still there.
road's still there.
But-
This was an additional driveway access when they combined the two lots into one.
Okay.
It
Had nothing to do with this loop?
has nothing to do with the
Okay.
loop.
Okay.
It had to do with the city making the decision at that time that we wanted to file this restriction on their property to close off this driveway. And
Yeah, I
it was
see.
just one of those things that
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
So we're in favor of that. We see no reason to
do your thing.
burden the lot with that, absent some justification, so, which we
Okay.
can't find, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard complaints about
Yeah, well, you're not gonna hear any more. Okay,
Is there anything from a title standpoint that you can see there, Janet, that concerns you?
I read through it. No, you just record the,
Anything that would affect Mike Taylor? Okay.
yeah, in fact, the only encumbrance on the title right now is the declaration that we've got, right? I mean, that's.
yeah, so you just file that it's being released.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we'll move on. Item 11, amending the definition of accessory apartments in City Code 1021 to align with the definition in Ordinance 2024-15. That's you, right, Wayne?
When the council passed the ordinance on accessory apartments, the definition that we have in our ordinance was contrary to what an accessory apartment is. So this is just taking the definition that's in our ordinance, what accessory apartment, and putting that into place in our ordinance rather than the definition that's there now. So it's just syncing up the definition of accessory apartment with the ordinance. That's what that is.
Seems so clear.
So these sleeping areas in this accessory apartment will be sprinkled, correct?
Would be what?
Sprinkled.
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
The whole
Okay.
structure would be.
okay,
For
so
our
it
code.
follows that, okay.
Yes.
All right, well, then that's, if there's nothing more on that, then let's move on to 12. Short-term rental ordinance.
I know we've had some discussion here with the council on short-term rentals. And I know there's different views about it. We were asked to do a little bit more research on it, and I went to city attorneys to talk to them about an ordinance that would prohibit short-term rentals altogether. And there's nothing against doing that. Their recommendation was, however, to not do that. That there's a group of individuals that monitor these sorts of things. They feel sometimes the government overreach in what the government does by just out bans of things. And it's met with some success in court things having to do with government overreach. And so their feeling was, and they drafted a couple of ordinances for other cities, which they gave us a copy of. I made a few modifications to it. If it's something that we wanted to pursue, kind of tailoring it to our city, to allow short-term rentals, but with some restrictions and a criteria that's in that ordinance that we disseminated. So we wanted that to be in your hands, and we want to have some further discussion if that's something that we should pursue as a city to allow them with restrictions as indicated, and even maybe other restrictions as well that are not included in that ordinance. Or should we pass an ordinance that bans them altogether? So that's the question that the council faces, and which one of those alternatives we should pursue. Right now, we don't have an ordinance against it, short-term rentals, so somebody could, and we don't have any guidelines or anything, so somebody could come in and kind of do whatever they want with a short-term rental. So we do need to do something. The criteria that we had last year and years before is that the city banned the kind of housing that's advertised through VRBOs. That was kind of a catchphrase. And most of the short-term rental is done through those online.
Airbnb, VRBO.
Yeah. So the city or the state last year passed an ordinance that says you can't use that as a restriction anymore. So that was our restriction to short-term rentals, and the state passed a law saying you can't do that.
Even in our class of city?
Correct. It was statewide, made no distinction.
Huh.
And so, again, some cities have banned them altogether, and most have not. They've established these kind of heavy laden regulations to govern them. There's a feeling that it's easier to govern through that regulation than try to do an outright ban and try to enforce that and monitor that. So there's different views on a best way to proceed with bans, or just a lot of restrictions on them that where you wouldn't have very many of them anyway, if any, for a city our size.
Legally.
Yes, we know there's people, we haven't gotten any complaints, but we know that there's some people who have the, we have one next to us that's been used that way in the past, even with the condition of advertised and whatnot. So anyway, we would look.
So the question is, if we make all these rules, who's going to enforce them?
We gave him a raise.
Well, and not, there's, so like, no,
'Cause you can go on
no
Airbnb
fires.
and put in Woodland Hills and just find out.
Yeah,
Advertise.
you could if, you don't, you can drive around the city and see violations of our code all the time.
Sorry.
No, but there's, I
So-
mean, like, if
Mm.
someone was renting and started a fire, it would be the sheriff's department, fire department. You know, that wouldn't be necessarily Wayne. Most of it would be Wayne, and following the rules of postings and things like that would be.
I just worry, I see people thinking, ooh, I'm staying in a cabin house in the woods, I'm gonna make a bonfire, you know what I mean, out back, I just
So my
worry.
My thoughts on it are, is if what was put together before was, you know, if you're going to have this short-term rental, you actually have to post it in plain sight, no fires allowed, no, no open flames, no, and no parties, that kind of stuff, so that they can't, the people that are there can't say, well, I didn't know, because it's posted right on the door or the whatever.
It's also when you make a listing of the RVO or an Airbnb listing, because I have you put all the rules in there
Mhm.
and they have to agree to them. And then also like at mine, I have kind of a central location. Most of them that I've stayed at, there's like a bulletin board with all those kinds of
Yep.
things posted.
And so that's telling them because if you're renting out your house, because you're gonna be gone to your tour in Europe, right? You wanna rent out your house for
I don't know
3 or
that
4
works.
weeks. There are people to do it. That would be there. It would have to be there for them to be able to rent it out legally. You know, you have to, there's always.
Yeah, I
that
have one in
caveat.
Idaho and I hate it. I
Yeah.
hate people in my house touching.
And I asked to have this tabled because I wanted to talk to more residents. Now, I finally got some, I did talk to some residents and I've got another thing where I'm going to ask for more resident input, and I needed some help from Jody and our attorneys on that. And got that. So I haven't actually done that part of it yet, but I did talk to more people, and the vast majority of people like myself and like y'all, I think, I don't want these things next to me. You can't do that. You better not allow that. But once you start talking to them about, when I talk to them and I give them that devil's advocate side of, well, there's people already doing it, and there's, these things are actually happening. And this allows us hopefully to regulate it a little bit more and actually make it more restrictive. I've only had a couple people, and most of that was actually on the planning commission when I talked to them there, because they voted to send it to us. Most of them are like, oh, I do understand that, but I still don't want them. I really don't. I don't.
I liken it to the shipping containers. I don't want that next to me either.
Yeah.
But people are doing it.
Yeah.
We've approved it, right?
Well, shipping containers are with restrictions too. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, that we have rules about those. I'm just saying I kind of think of it in the same way.
Yeah.
I don't want those either.
But I also, I also have to think about, as a landowner myself, having my own rights to do what I want with my property. I'm not going to do it, but there are people that do want to do that. And I also feel that there should be some,
It just opens,
allowance for it.
because the citizens don't want it, it just opens.
I agree. And I'm ready to vote against allowing it because of the feedback from the residents. But I also want to, I ran on being the devil's advocate, I would play the devil's
It just
advocate.
opens
I need to say that.
problems, right? You're gonna have complaints, you're
But
gonna have,
we're
Wayne
liable to
County
have
to enforce it.
complaints that we're not going to allow it.
I know. but-
Sounds like it's going to be worse than complaints. They'll take us to court.
Yes.
so just to, I mean,
Not to
you're looking
really-
for kind of an informal opinion from the council, right? So it
Which-
sounds
which-
like we've got two that are advocating don't allow
No,
them.
I'm ready to vote
saying,
the way that, I mean, I'm divided on this one. I really am.
I have more questions.
I mean, and
Let's
if
hear
you can go forward and have additional dialogue privately with others or other work sessions and talk about it, but I'm just saying, in the meantime, we don't have anything that prohibits it.
Is it, in your discussion with the attorneys, is it legal to limit the percentage or how many we can have
Yes,
in our
yes.
community?
In fact,
So that when we cap, we can say no?
the ordinance that they gave us, which you have, shows you can't, that it can't be within 0.45, excuse me, 0.25, I think, miles of another short-term rental.
I did read that. I read through all
So
of
it's
it.
scattered around, you can't have clumps of them. So that, in essence, is a restriction, one restriction of it. So you can do a lot of regulations that restrict them, maybe almost to the point where nobody wants to bother with them to do
So
it.
with that designation, so that's not on a per use basis? Do you like get that designation early on and then you lock it in and then none of your neighbors can do it?
That's right.
So I know in Hawaii, they have a certain
That'll
number
make people mad too.
of
Yes, I will.
short-term rentals licenses, and you have to have a license to operate. And they basically just poke them in their pocket, and it's really, really hard to get one. And when you sell, it automatically defaults the property. That license defaults back to the county.
Oh,
And
it does,
there's
okay, so it's not.
you can't. It's not like a rent lock or it's there's things that I think we could do that could. I don't know. I guess I kind of look at it from that same fee schedule argument as lock it down and make them have to jump through hoops to make it viable.
Well, one
I
of
don't
the
know.
things that Wayne put into
But good
this was, and he put into the one that they submitted to us as well, is that property owner has to be on the site. So either you're renting out part of your house or an ADU or a detached ADU, or you're staying in a detached ADU while they're renting your house. So that's another restriction that already limits how many people could do that, because we don't have that.
So that we're
many
not having
people.
it, because I guess my concern, and I, look at my other experience, but yeah, you are somewhere where you have a bunch of investors that are just buying homes and then like renting them out. and
Yes,
they're
that's
not
what
on
Wayne
site.
put in there. Other cities have done that. They have to be local. A property manager has to be local. So we can put those restrictions in and severely limit that way.
See, I
but
actually
still
don't
allow
mind that because then it's, if it's somebody who is, needing some extra cash and thus they are leveraging this from kind of a business standpoint and they live right next door in their apartment we've now granted per our last
Or they're
council.
basement apartment and they rent
Wait.
the house or vice versa.
I'm in favor of that, right? To help them be able to, because they're highly invested. It's not, I have a home, my summer home in Woodland Hills that I rent out, it's not turning into that, or, your investment properties, I'm okay with a short-term rental in that scenario.
But it limits,
don't want
that would also limit the people who want to long-term rent, say they're going on a mission and they want to do a long-term rental in their house for 10
That's different.
years. But they they can't pay their mortgage, or that's part of their plan. Their financial plan is to short-term rental it until they get that long-term rental. So that would eliminate those. Plain devil's advocate here. So.
Yeah, but
Yeah, they're
But-
currently eliminated.
it's hard to find a place to rent, at least right now. It's not like there's an abundance of places to rent. So if you're going on a mission, your house is gonna rent like.
I think that's what Wayne had found with his neighbor, is they wanted longer-term rentals, didn't they?
Yeah, it's been vacant for a year now,
And so they started
So what it was,
short-term
they
rental.
must be been asking too much then.
maybe. And I don't,
Short-term rental money, a long-term rental contract.
But I do think we need to be cognizant of private property rights too. I mean, I think that without a fairly compelling reason to restrict people's use of their property, I mean, hey, it's your vote. I might be the swing vote.
You could be a
You're
swing
voting
man.
anything tonight.
Yeah, 2-2, you could break the tie.
But I think that this advocacy group that you're referring to has a fair point. I mean, I can certainly see, but I don't love the notion of a lot of control by neighbors or councils or mayors or anything like that when it comes to private property rights, unless there is a real compelling interest. And I'm not talking just a distaste for it. So I think it's something that does need to be carefully looked at. I don't know that I love the idea. I mean, I don't have any anticipation. It's kind of ironic that someone who's doing it is voting
Yeah,
against it too. But I
didn't
do
say
think that
I'm
that is an
voting
important
against it.
consideration.
I didn't say I'm voting against it. I just am seeing, yes, I'm an owner and I have to defend it almost every day over there. And I am seeing all the problems that it causes.
You know, in a different setting, a resort town, you know, that's much more
Right.
prevalent.
Yeah.
And people are used to it and not a big thing.
No, she's in a
Well,
It
resort
got-
is.
town. and-
They hate it.
Up
They're
to
mad.
now, we've got single-family residents here in the city. And that's been our history and background. So I see where it is a challenge to move into this other area if that's the decision to do. And I can see why the residents, they don't come up here to be next to a party house or people who are in their home and not be aware of our ordinances and things. So that's the history, the background that goes with looking at this matter. And up to now, we haven't done it. So it is a significant, I can certainly see why people would not be in favor of it for the most part.
So Doral, you said you had some comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll just throw them out there. I think managing something like this is really complicated. Your job is what I'm pointing out. I feel like, first of all, I'll just preface everything else I'm going to say with, I think doing nothing and saying nothing as we are right now is my best choice, personally. You know, we have a few, you tell me, I don't know who they are, I don't know where they are. They aren't making noise around me, so I'm not complaining. Now, the things that concern me, I like the write-up. I like all of the inspection and the fire chief and egress and all of that. That's really well written, in my opinion. The part that concerns me is if I went up and down my street for a quarter mile and got permission from my neighbors, if you will, permission to do this, half of them would shoot me. I would get hurt. And so, because I've poked around like Brian has and just kind of got an ear, you know, to find out what people think, and people don't want to talk about it. And if we started it, if we passed this ordinance, would you retroly go back and get the ones that are doing it and inspect them and charge them and all that stuff? I don't know how you would handle the people already doing it.
Well, it's critical enough from a safety standpoint, and you'd make a wide dissemination of, we have this ordinance and this is the requirements. If you're currently doing this, you would be well advised to follow what's here like you were doing for a new.
So that's kind of the intent then, is to do
So-
that, is to get them. Okay. But like I said, I'll stop with those remarks and just say, I think it's better to leave it alone. We did try it once, and you remember this when they had this going on around some of our citizens, and it was a disaster. Garbage cans were, there was junk in the recycle. You know what I mean? It was a mess over there on over by Anderson's, and they came unglued with all night parties and just fireworks and you name it. So it didn't go well. But anyway, so
With allowing it.
I don't have
So are
any.
we allowing the number of renters that can be in, like that they can rent to? Can they rent to 100 people?
We can restrict that.
We
No
have
more
to
than-
for our septic reasons.
It's kind of in the inspection.
I think we have to
Parking.
restrict the number of people they can rent to, but then it depends on the house size.
That's, they decided at inspection.
I think the septic system has to dictate that. The septic systems are designed for a certain number of bodies in that home.
They
That's
take
the number.
small overloads, right? I mean, they do, but
I'm
no,
just
you're
saying,
absolutely right.
That's, but
It's
but
built
it,
for a home.
Consistent,
but
Yeah.
if they're renting it, because like, I know
Gotta-
people, you know, I
yeah.
don't know, what's your percentage of the year booked? You're over 50%, I'd assume.
Well, I only make it available
So
6 months
of
out
the
of the
time
year.
you're available, you're
booked.
pretty slammed, right?
Oh, I don't even have a single day in June or July that's open, every single day.
So I would say there you're saying, okay, the septic system is rated for 8 people. Done. That's the cap. Period. Would also be helpful for people to understand what their septic system's rated for.
But do they know?
That's easily found out. You
Is
just
it?
call the county and say, hey, what's my septic system rated at? They'll look it up and tell you, bam.
The newer ones.
I know, I
Go
know,
back
even some
20
of the older
years.
ones.
I know by
that-
trial
those
and
records are
error.
gone.
That's why I'm rooting for sewer.
I mean, so I had friends who they moved to Florida. Their daughter was here at school. She was getting married to a kid over at Elk Ridge. They came and stayed with us. We had 10 additional people in my house, fairly decent sized house. But the septic system was able to handle that for a week, right?
Yeah.
But if you were doing that, if I had 15 people in my house consistently for a long time, it would never handle. It just couldn't manage.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. What is the house designed? I mean, I've got big spaces where they camped out and everything else. What is the house designed for? And can we limit that? Is there a way to say 2 people per bedroom is the max that you have available, max occupancy? And we set a maximum occupancy either with you or chief?
I don't know why you couldn't. do
I,
that.
it's different, like where mine is, but we're not individually metered for our water up there. So we pay based on how developed our lot is and what services we use. But the complaints up there, and it could be here for different things, but the complaint is that when you have a rental, that you're using more of the resources, right? But it could be the same with some of the citizens. I'm just thinking like roads, they're gonna say, well, maybe there's more wear and tear on the roads if there's more people. More need for police services. I mean, there could be costs that the city incurs.
So I did talk to Sergeant Dudson, and there is no additional cost, even if we had a problem house.
I'm just saying, these are concerns, I think, that we're
I
gonna hear
agree,
from
I
the
agree, but that was
citizens.
one of the concerns that was brought up originally, so I actually talked to him, and that would not actually incur us any additional costs.
So I would like to, I mean, I don't think we'll be able to hammer out the details tonight. So is the consensus of the council then that we want Wayne to go back and put together, revise what he's got and add, I mean, do you have some specific,
I want to limit the number of people they can rent to.
I like that.
okay? Any other, and I mean, and this is something that I guess would be ideal if we had general
Sorry, Wade.
agreement here. And
Yeah.
I don't want to waste Wayne's time and, putting in controversial
Do we
terms.
want to make it so that an owner has to be on the property? Do we want to restrict it that way or not?
Does he have that in there already?
It
Well,
is,
it is.
but it doesn't
What
necessarily.
I took out was the representative in the city that you have, that is the one on call if there's any issues or problems. To put the owner of the property,
Or it has to be responsive on the
site.
phone?
then that really limits it.
Yeah.
So,
Be honest with you, in my view, if I voted to pass this eventually, even with his changes, I'd be tarred and feathered, and I probably would not ever support it.
Support the restrictions or
To
support the allowance?
The allowance at all.
Okay, so you're a hard no,
As of now,
Okay.
yeah.
and then are the numbers here for this to ever pass? So Carrie's not here, obviously, so, I mean, if it's something where this is a split decision, then it would be better to probably get Carrie's input and then decide if it's worth
Well, you might
pursuing.
have 3 all for it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
if the 3 of you are in agreement, then,
and this is something that can be changed. I mean,
Yeah.
we could pass an ordinance, says we don't allow it. A year from now, climate change, issues come up, we decide, well, okay, let's put something together to allow it.
Do any of our faces look like we're happy and comfortable with it?
I
I mean, I'm
would.
just saying.
I think I would vote for it as long as it can be dialed in, right? Very similar to my last proposal there with the fee schedule change, right? I don't want the doors wide open, but I do feel, to the mayor's point, there's a property ownership, property rights element here that I think we need to consider.
Exactly. That's why I'm happy with say nothing, do nothing.
Well, the problem is that's what got us that's why Wayne gets beat up so much, is because we've operated with the say nothing, do nothing so much, and now he's having to enforce, and it's like, whoa, you guys haven't done jack crap anymore, so why are you now
I
stepping
feel
up to the
Well,
plate?
but there's nothing to enforce here because we're not permitted
Well, it sounds like to
to
me,
make the restrictions that we had concerning marketing. And so right now it's Wild West, right?
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
so.
but
there's
I think
nothing-
nobody knows that right now, right?
No, it's not. I mean, you still have to obey everything in our city when you're here.
I mean,
You can't go outside and
there's a lot of
burn
related
things.
things. If somebody's got an open fire,
Yeah,
somebody's
those all still
got a
apply.
record player going loud, it's a
That's
nuisance.
all that applies.
So there are issues that can be enforced that
Those
are
record players.
related
And-
to.
And that still gives the property owner all of his rights and everything. I just have to handle
I'm
the
old.
hoodlums.
I'm old.
Like it.
I like it.
I think you need a phonograph.
That too.
I think personally, I would rather have an ordinance in place that does clearly articulate occupancy allowances, requirements for maybe posting around fire, and the rules that they would need to comply with when posting their properties. I'd rather have something than just do whatever you want and we'll just ding you as it may occur.
That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, so we got two on that then.
I'm not going to put words in Carrie's mouth, but from her past comments, I have a feeling that she's
absolutely
against it. But
Against
anyway,
Here I am again, the
Yeah.
swing.
No, but vote with them and the mayor can decide. I want to see that.
No,
I
no,
don't think
if Jan's with them, then that's three.
Oh, I know.
You guys
I
have the
know.
numbers.
But this
No,
isn't on the docket.
here's
today,
what I
right?
think.
No, it's not, but I just, again, I don't
just
want
to
to waste
send
Wayne's
it.
I don't
time.
want to send them back again and
No,
have
no,
it do
but we
something
can let it
that
simmer
comes back.
now and leave it alone.
But Wayne, here's what I think. I think that Doral's outlook is the small Woodland Hills, what we used to be, thought process.
True.
And we're not that anymore, unfortunately.
But we love Doral.
We love small-minded doors.
I love small
love
government. I
phonographs.
love small government.
No.
But in talking to people, have any of you talked to somebody who says, I'd like to have that?
Oh,
Let's pass an ordinance that allows that.
Go for it. Because I'm torn.
Since Ben's here from Summit Creek,
Yeah.
what does Summit Creek allow?
Oh,
So they don't allow it.
you don't allow VRBOs and
Per our
baloney.
ordinance.
Is that
though,
the
is
homeowners that does that?
rental.
Homeowner rule?
HOA.
HOA, that's what I meant. I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
Would you mind just going on the record with this?
Oh, yeah.
Scoot over halfway.
They are.
Very cool.
Yeah,
That's
the,
planning commission and developer right there.
I need a
you
picture of
got,
this.
you got a
I
picture
need
of
two.
this.
That's a developer with
Our,
planning commission.
HOAs, our CCNR state that you can't lease or rent your property for less than 30 days. And that's pretty much, there's nothing specific about Airbnb. I don't know that those existed when the CCNRs were written.
Do you have any rule breakers?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're renting one of our homes, but it's going to be longer than 30 days.
Oh.
And it's a lease option. So it's, yeah, hopefully they'll buy it. It's 30 days. Thanks, Wayne. Sure.
Thank you, man.
We just
Okay.
need to start an HOA.
No, we got rid of that.
All right.
Ben had that
I
headache.
quit if
So-
you do that.
Janet, if you don't feel like you're prepared to commit, that's fine too. But if we're prepared to,
Are we
if
supposed
if
to
three-
vote on it
No,
tonight?
no, but
No.
we're
Just-
informally voting because it's a matter of whether Wayne starts drafting or whether everyone just chews on it and then we reconvene as necessary.
We have to limit the number of renters. They can't have a house party and have 100 people in there.
Currently, they can't.
I know.
No ordinance, they can't.
No, they gotta
I-
follow citizens' rules. They can't light a fire.
They
They
can have
can't.
100 people in
They
there.
still have a curfew. All those rules still apply.
I'm not running for reelection anyway.
Oh, you're to get a blasted? Oh, no.
All right, so that's a year with Ben and Brian on this then, and so Wayne can start.
I
Drafted.
want to see the final draft. I'm not going to totally
course.
commit, but,
But it's-
I'm open, and I own one and I'm opposed. I'm generally opposed. But I'm going to make you spend more time with me.
Okay, so
I'm
Wayne, does
sorry.
that give you what you need
Yeah,
to?
I can do that. I mean, we got the skeleton of it there.
And it doesn't have to be a rush job. In my opinion, this can sit for a while and give
So-
you guys
So,
some resources.
You know, it's just hard because I don't want to open Pandora's box. This is like where I'm at, but also if you don't regulate it, you know, this our citizens' number one complaint is that we don't enforce anything and that we don't follow through with anything and that there's no regulation. But I also don't want to be California or back east and overregulate. I mean, I like living in the woods and being left alone. So
Well, I think that's to Doral's point. Is it
I
a
know.
problem right now? I mean,
Not to
are
me.
short-term rentals a problem?
Not at all to
Has
me.
anybody encountered, I mean, we're sort of doing this in anticipation of
There
problems.
has been. I
There's
know
one currently advertised.
Well, I know of one.
Yeah, but is it a problem?
No, for me, I want, personally, I think I'm with everybody here. I'd rather ban them. But
That's
I
not
also,
where I stand.
well, the council, but I also believe that we need to, you know, we've paid and asked our attorneys for what they're seeing across the state. And that's kind of pulling me to say, okay, we need to do something. And I would rather have the ability to say, okay,
but
you
do we
know,
wanna be
Brent,
like everybody
you're
else?
in
We're
violation.
not like it.
This is what we need to make sure you're just doing to keep the city, the county safe. Here's the
Yeah.
code,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
right? Versus being able to say, you know what, Brent, you're in violation, and it's because of this code, this code, this code, this code, and this code. And you should have triangulated all of that together before you let somebody rent your home with 100 people and starting a fire, right? They know that, but it's kind of like a handbook that we can hopefully help them say, if you want to do this, here are just a few of those rules to make your life pleasant.
So-
We're not
Fair.
restricting it really beyond making it so that it's an easy thing for them to do if they so desire without compromising the safety, which is the oath that I swore to do to keep the residents safe.
What's hard for
No,
me
you
though
swore to uphold
is
the
I don't want to
Constitution.
live where I am
No.
on my rental. I don't want to live there because there are lots of rentals. And that's not a place I want to live.
All right, well, I think that,
Do you want somebody else to live there? Is that what you're saying? I wouldn't live there, but I want somebody else to live there.
I'm saying
just
I
want
own
somebody
it
to
and
rent
I
there.
rent it and that we bought it with the intent of maybe retiring there, but
She
now
doesn't-
I don't want to live there because there's too many rentals.
and people are
don't-
touching your stuff too, right?
People are touching my
Said
stuff.
that.
They're sleeping on my bed.
Yeah. People are disgusting.
Oh, that's all. So,
Thankfully, they're giving you money. For
All
it.
right, so I think that this is probably a good point to move on. I mean, I think that you've gotten the feedback.
We'll put some other things together. I would ask each council member to let me know of what restrictions you would like to see in here. And feed them to me, send me an email, and we'll kind of do some.
You
You're-
don't mind.
your commissioners were against this mostly also, correct? Didn't you tell me your commissioners
No,
were already
only
against
one-
this?
Only one voted against it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I even got several.
You're the salesman then.
I gave the arguments similar to what I gave here and
Huh.
last council.
Wow.
I think there was a feeling that I don't want him next to me, of the person who voted against it. And there's probably, every one of us would feel that way, absent other issues that come into play. So,
What about the number of vehicles too?
It's
all
well, in
in
the
there.
first draft, it's It has to be off-street parking.
It's all
Yada,
in
yada.
there.
He's got it in
So
there.
just if you got commentary, I think
I'm
there's
just
there's a
thinking-
numbers that suggest that
That
this-
was the biggest problem. That and the fires were the biggest problems with the ones we've had.
okay.
Just give me an email with your thoughts. Kind of some of the direction.
Okay. Thanks, Wayne.
Okay.
All right.
80
Adoption of the social media policy. I think that we've,
We don't need to discuss it. I don't think.
No.
We just need to
And
pass it
we just need
already.
to-
yeah,
freaking
it was
pass it.
just not on the agenda last
I
time. so-
know. I thought it was, and then it wasn't.
Yeah, no, that's on me.
I love it.
Okay. I love it.
Can I ask you a question about it though?
Oh, here
What?
Doral comes with this free
What?
speech.
I drank a
authority.
lot of water before this meeting.
Okay, just
You and the Bill of
just
Rights.
clear- I don't want you all to report me to the city police. That's Wayne. Suppose I'm running for reelection. I can get on my personal account and just blabber all I want. I just can't put anything on the city account, even if people are asking questions over there. That's what I understood from this media policy.
No.
Do I understand it correctly?
The city, like your city profile or the city page?
Well, I have a DB Kennison account and I can do whatever I want to do over there. It's not hooked to the
No,
city
you
though.
can't. You can't, on your personal account, you can't go and say, as a city council person, I think that this short-term rental thing is bunk. You can't do that because you're using your official position and you're putting it on your private page and you're
I
putting.
can't say that on my private
No,
page?
because.
It drags all of your private stuff.
Oh,
And you,
so, wow, I'm in trouble.
so
So,
you can't, so you can't do that on your, you can't make any kind of, you can't represent yourself as a representative of the city or anything on your private page. If you want to make those kinds of statements, you need to make it as Doral Kinnison City Council, you need to make a whole new page.
And you've got to post it on the city official
See,
social media sites.
when
and
I read our
websites.
media policy, there's a phrase in there called personnel, and it's council, mayor, Jody, the world of the city. And we've probably all violated something on that media policy,
100%.
especially one that isn't here, probably, but. Well, then you're, so anyway, it just left some confusion to me if I were running for election and wanted to say, don't vote for you, but vote for you. You know, I can't do that even in there. I read that.
Well, you could
Can.
go and say,
But you need to
speaking
create
as
a
members-
council member Doral
Yeah,
Kinnison
then you can
page.
do it.
Then you can spout off all you want about the things the council does.
Yeah.
But just don't do it on your own page.
Because
Wait a
then you're
minute,
muddying the
now I'm
waters,
confused.
Doral.
Is my own page DB Keniston or is I'm
Yes.
on the,
So the
So-
mayor could have Mayor Winder and he could say, in the city council meeting, we discussed X topic. And on X topic, my opinion is Y. Now,
So you're saying my personal page would?
No,
not be
your
the one
city
for that?
council,
City
your
you would
official
have to
mayor one.
create a Mayor Brent Winder Facebook page.
That's where I would offer opinions.
You don't
You
want to
could-
muddy the water, like you can't, you don't want to put your personal stuff on your city one and you don't want
Right,
to
no, I
put your
get
city
that.
one on your personal one.
You could offer what your,
But you'll be held accountable for it.
Yeah, you'll be
Whatever you
held.
put on your official page, you better stand behind it because you could be held accountable for what you say.
Mhm.
So that's the trick. So that's where they said in that meeting that we went to, that's where they said, that's where the problem comes of having an official page is when you're posting things on your official page, you better make sure that they're accurate and you better make sure that you stand behind whatever you post. Because if people call you out on it, you're gonna have to back it up.
So a good example is on X. Senator Lee has Senator Mike Lee, at Senator Mike Lee is his handle, and there he posts commentary on the senatorial business and, you know, his opinions there. But then he has Based Mike Lee, at Based Mike Lee, and there he basically just comments on whatever the heck he wants, right? He talks just, you know, about the weather, or about Utah stuff, whatever, that's associated with him being a senator. Now, if he ever comments on his senatorial practices as base Mike Lee, everything on his base Mike Lee Twitter is now potentially
Official position.
official position.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how he's delineated the two. And most of the senators have two different accounts that they're posting from. And you're just hoping you can keep the balls in the air and keep it all clean. And you don't accidentally think you're logged into one and you're actually logged into the other because you just screwed up.
And they
No.
recommend that on your personal page that you put a disclaimer that this is, you know, basically a personal page and this is not, elected official does not have anything to do with that, that helps.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us have that on there.
No, I've been meaning to put it on.
Me too.
Okay. Thanks. That clarifies. I was just thinking that the official profile was not for weighing in on personal opinions, but you're saying it actually is the very avenue to. Okay.
Well, I voted yes for this because, or I opposed the short-term rental policy, and here are my reasons why.
That makes sense.
I want to use it for, this is something that, short-term rentals is something that we're wanting to, we're looking at. What are you, here's the arguments, what are your thoughts on it? So that I can get that input back from the residents, because I have my own personal feelings, but I represent.
All right, and Doral, I didn't mean to hijack your concerns. I don't know if they're now addressed or magnified or.
Well, I just know now, before I type anything, I'm going to ask Janet first, because she knows.
Yeah, good idea. So we'll just send all of our proposed comments to you.
We'll
I
do
only
one-
look at my city council emails.
And I'll say,
every few days.
Janet said I could say this. The mayor is a blah, blah, blah.
You said that, Janet?
This is
All right.
No.
No, thank you. It's good. I'm ready
Does
to
that make
pass.
sense? Okay.
Okay, then let's move on to item 14. Replacement of AC units at City Center. Feel the cooling air. Hopefully there's no.
I brought my
No
little
opposition?
fan, my under my desk fan from work because I thought I might need it
I was
tonight.
gonna-
I was prepared.
Yeah.
Here's my Ember wave and I forgot.
I knew that there was an outlet right here and I was just gonna plug it in and be like,
I gotta tell you, this would have been a killer of a meeting without
It would
AC.
have been hot.
the
I think
budget.
we would have moved
oh.
faster.
Yeah, well, maybe. It would have moved along more angrily. Okay, any other commentary?
I'm surprised how long this meeting has gone, being that we're
sorry.
missing
It's my fault.
somebody.
I knew it was gonna happen.
I'm just saying, we're less discussion. There's one less person here.
Okay, item 15, reports. I did not get to the MAG meeting, the most recent one, but I do have something to report on SESD. I talked to some of you about it. So SESD, as you may or may not know, I mean, there's some local transmission that it owns. We own, remember, we're part of SESD, but much of the transmission is owned by Rocky Mountain Power. Rocky Mountain Power has just issued, basically, it's protecting itself against, I think, liability for wildfires. So during certain conditions, Rocky Mountain Power has effectively decreed that we're shutting down transmission in certain areas where there's a fire that's encroaching within a certain proximity, or if conditions are, a certain type, then they actually are going to exercise that right. And that could mean brownouts, rolling brownouts for different areas.
We had one
that are
on
serviced by
Sunday.
that. Yeah, except I don't
I don't
believe
think that
that
was
was
intentional.
we-
Yeah.
Like, we had our meeting today and that one didn't come up. And so I wasn't sure if that was even a local problem, like maybe something at the church. I don't know anybody else. Our power was on. We came right home.
My power was fine.
Yeah, so was mine.
Mine was great in Georgia.
That's right.
Um,
But anyway, this is
that's
something that
because of the fires in California, right?
yeah, so the way I understand it, and I'm no authority on this, but it sounds like when wildfires break out, utilities are some of the first organizations to get blamed, even if they're not necessarily at fault. And so California's electric utility apparently is facing just massive legal problems. Yeah, and Hawaii too. And so I think Rocky Mountain Power or Pacific Corp is trying to guard against that. And, I mean, it seems that there could be potential lawsuits in the other direction, someone who needs electricity
For
for
medical
health purposes.
equipment. or
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, this is the direction it's going. So, I mean, there's not anything that SESD can do about it other than put customers on notice. I mean, it is something,
And they should
ideally,
let
I
us
guess-
have our solar power when they shut the power off, not have the solar power go off.
Is that happening?
Yeah, that's, my solar power goes off if the power goes off.
But you have batteries?
No,
Oh,
So
that's
they-
why.
They
Yeah.
changed that last year. So
I know, but my system was set up
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah,
You mean with
have to
storage?
make- Yeah, you'd have to make.
I have to
modifications.
invest about $40,000
Yeah, they're not cheap.
to get on a battery system.
Yeah. But that or a generator, I mean, those are the solutions that,
So- The Rocky Mountain Power lines that goes across Woodland Hills Drive and down towards Elk Ridge that they put up after the fire, those are actually designed to withstand wildfire. So they are putting some mitigation efforts in that big main transmission, that diamond transmission line. that you see going down. Because when we had the wildfire in Salem across the street underneath of that, we thought that was SDSD, called in SDSD. It turns out it wasn't theirs, and they called Rocky Mountain Power, like, yeah, we're not worried about it. They eventually were gonna get over there because they're actually designed to withstand the wildfire. They moved it off of the hillside down to there and then put in this, so that they're doing that. And then underground lines, that's one nice thing about our city, is we're all underground. And that is the biggest mitigation efforts for power to wildfires. Their power lines underground. So the city designers here that started this whole thing. We'd see.
and visually too, it's better. But, so it's obviously not something where we want to incite panic, but it is something that's a real concern. So Ben, I was thinking emergency management wise, and then Janet communications wise, and Jody, I would like to get this as widely disseminated as possible. And I think that even
Mhm.
through like ecclesiastical channels, it would probably be good because I mean, we can have
But
emergency
what
preparedness.
I mean, do they have something in writing? Because like, what are their right conditions?
No, I've got, so there's
Oh.
a 1-pager and then there's a 3-pager that's more,
Okay,
but the notification, I mean, it could be sudden. Like, they're not holding themselves to any particular timeline. Like, you could get a notice and then within 5 minutes, your power's on. So it's not as though you're guaranteed a long off-ramp to, the Stone Ages.
so I've got to keep
Phonographs, right?
my generator full of gas and extra cans, which is a fire hazard, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, it's something, but I think that as far as like personal preparedness goes, it's something I don't know exactly how this will play out, but there's a real chance that the power could go out and it could go out for days. I mean, it is something that we could face. So I think that
Dang.
the job here is to just, again, not to incite panic, but to inform the residents and let them know that, okay, this is a possibility this fire season and probably in fire seasons to come. And so just make sure that you've got the necessary preparations made, or at
Okay.
least strive to.
Do you by
As a
chance?
fire chief, what time of year do you start getting worried about fire? And usually for me, it's the 1st of July, like 4th of July, I start stressing about fire.
Because
out
people
there.
are shooting fire at the sky.
Generally about.
Sorry, just a question.
Generally about the middle of July is when fire season, I mean, fire seasons will kick off. August into September are usually are more concerning times because that's when you have your thunderstorms. And, most often, I mean, we have human caused fires, but as many of those as we have are lightning strikes and they can cause fire. So usually when you get your driest conditions, which is towards the end of August, and then you start getting the dry thunderstorms come through, that's usually when you get the most concerned. So I would say, yeah, mid-July to
I just was asking, like,
Mid-September.
when will the brown out? You know what I mean? I was just kind of thinking like when those possibly start to.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak of them as though they're an inevitability.
Right.
It's just a possibility because now they've kind of given themselves that option.
So what about after the power went out at the church, but our solar salesman, he posted something about
Yeah, no, I mean, and I mean, he's not, well, I think.
about them having a lot and not having enough power and that there
Right.
could be brownouts because there's a power shortage.
No,
Like, is
that-
that valid as well?
No, and I'm glad you brought that up because this is not about resources.
case
This is
people
about
ask us.
transmission. Yeah, there's plenty of power. I mean, now SESD goes to great lengths to try to acquire as much affordable power as it can. And that's the objective. I'm on the resource committee. That's what we do. And so it's not a matter of resources. It's a matter of transmission. And Rocky Mountain Power owns the preponderance of our transmission lines. And it's not just Woodland Hills. It's not just anybody in the district even. I mean, it's Payson, it's Spanish Fork, it's Salem, it's people, it's cities that have their own utilities. Anybody that relies on Rocky Mountain's transmission. So it's something that is not resource related. So that is a great clarification. I mean, Mike is not incorrect in saying that, a bunch of solar and some batteries. I mean, it would be, I don't know how long the storage capacity for batteries is. I'm under the impression it's less than 4 hours with a pretty good battery, but I don't know. But I mean, that's not going to allow you to endure days without power if it comes up. But it's a fair point. I mean, it seemed a little opportunistic to me because the church was not a rolling blackout.
Yeah,
but
I know.
it is a fair point and something for residents to at least consider.
I'm just saying if we get questions, because if we start posting this, then they're going to ask, well, is it because they're going to have seen his post.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and hopefully that gives you the information you're looking for. Blame it on Rocky Mountain Power because that's basically, I mean, we're beholden to them and their transmission.
Okay.
Okay. That's it for me. Councilmember Hilliard.
So we just had our first board meeting in the new facility, which was fun. Everything is going fairly well. The efficiencies are up. The tonnage that we are receiving is up. So everything's looking good, financially from the new station. They're working out a lot of the bugs, but for the most part, it's still pretty fun. It's pretty good in the system.
I know.
We don't have any bugs yet.
Flies and cockroaches.
And the old transfer station is currently being demolished.
Oh.
So,
Very
and
good.
that's a really cool thing. In this instance, we are paying our contractors to demolish it, and then they're paying us to dispose of it. It's a fabulous system.
Yes.
That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hutchings.
Okay, so on Monday, we actually had our SUMBA and our Mountain Nebo water board meetings. I do have some things to report. So I came back from SUMBA with a little bit of concern I talked with Ted about. They are putting possibility, and then they're going to vote on it on the next meeting, of selling some shares, some water shares in East Jordan and South Jordan districts, because we're paying assessment fees on those, and they're, for the most part, not being used, except for Woodland Hills. And so we are using those shares, and so I came back and talked with Ted about that to let him get ahead of the curve on that in case we need to make some changes there or however that's going. So Ted's working on that. There was an assessment done, or basically an assessment done on whether we should get rid of those or not a little while ago by a firm. And so he's got that in, Ted can get that information. They are, so that's the big thing for SUMBA was the possibility of getting rid of those. We're using some shares of, I believe it was South Jordan Canal And so that's a concern for us because we're the only ones. So my guess, based on the reaction there at the meeting, they're gonna sell those shares. And so we're gonna have to we need to just be ready for it, whether or not Ted was looking into it. And I don't know if you've come up with, I don't know if you've had enough time to look through things yet or not to speak on it.
But yeah, it's really just a matter of what they are. Is there's some certificated. So we've got 300 and some odd acre feet of water that's certificated. This is, I remember right, it was around 16 acre feet of that or something like that. That if they get rid of those shares, we would lose that. We're kind of joint certificators with South Jordan Canal Company on those two water rights. We would lose those 16 shares. Essentially, we've got another 500 something acre feet of water rights we can certificate. So bottom line is we're about 35 to the plus right now. So even if we lose those 16, we're still okay. And that gives us a little time to start working on certificating some more that we have approved. They're just not certificated. So I don't see this as, and we'll have plenty of water rights for our pretty much build out conditions. So I don't see this as an issue, more as just a process of working through with them.
Good to know.
All right, then Mount Nebo, which there's actually a lot more going on at Mount Nebo, water than there was at Sumba. They're still waiting on some grant reimbursement when they went through the finance report. It was a public meeting to go over that kind of stuff, or public hearing. So the new budget looks like there's plenty in their admin budget that there's not going to be any additional assessment. The groundwater management plan is actually coming in under budget. But with the groundwater database that they've been working on and putting together, we might get a small assessment from that. I wouldn't expect it to be more than a couple $100. But because we've already been assessed and it's just for the maintenance of it, because the first year setting it up and the maintenance, there could be an additional assessment they'll let us know on that. Kind of went through a history. It was actually a good meeting to go to because they don't record those. Because the attorney Steve Clyde from Central Utah Water, he did a presentation on basically why Mount Nebo Water Agency was put together. And it's basically because Sumba wasn't doing what they thought they should be doing. And so they decided to set up this Mount Nebo Water Agency. Goshen's pushing to try to combine the two, but there's some differences in who's in each agency. The Sumba's a bigger agency than Mount Nebo, but they're actually working on this groundwater database that is being viewed by the state as like one of the best ever, and are working with other communities and trying to kind of copy what Mount Nebo's doing on the groundwater assessment. So it's actually a really good thing that we're involved in that and doing that. So they did re-elect their chair and vice chair, and then a new secretary treasurer, because he had come up to his end of his 3 years. He couldn't do it. In their bylaws, they can't do more than 3 years. Yeah. So the chair and vice chair do 1 year terms, and they've each only done 2. So they were revoted in to be new, to continue in their spot. But the treasurer is a 3-year term, and he can't do more than one successive. He can only do 1 term. So they voted in a new one who's out of Payson, which he's with. I think he's with Strawberry Water. So we got a new treasurer.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Councilmember Kinnison.
And Brian took all of my time, so I don't have anything to report. My meeting is day after tomorrow, and I reported on last month's meeting, so.
Tell us about our sirens.
Oh, that's exciting. Let's do a siren update, Ted. Grab that microphone. I see some foundation out there.
See, I have it written down. I thought of it early and I was gonna.
Way to go.
Yeah, so the guy installing the sirens, Andy, he was here a couple days ago. That's the foundation that you see out there right now is the foundation for the tower that will hold the antenna. They'll be connected to the base unit that will send the signal out to all of our siren towers. So that has been poured. He's going to let that sit for about 2 weeks for the concrete to cure. And he's also he's got all the tower equipment. So once that sets up, he can start working on the tower equipment. He's still waiting on the radios because we're updating our radios on each of our sirens. So he's still waiting on those, but he's expecting to get those any day now. So you'll see it kind of just sit idle for a couple of weeks while that concrete cures, and then he'll be back working on it again. And probably within the next month and a half, depending on how long he sets to sit, we should have it up and running. Yeah.
Perfect time for you to go carve your initials in that.
Yeah.
Get it tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, they're all over inside. You just haven't seen it yet.
That's excellent. So we're excited about that. Thanks, Ted.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lund.
I got nothing.
Yeah, according to the agenda, you got nothing too. So nothing and nothing. It
Nothing.
adds up.
You just say present.
Present.
Okay.
I got a B on my keyboard in case you care.
That drone?
Yeah, I saw something land over there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not a drone. It's real. It's like a baby wasp.
It's not even a honey.
Yeah, it looked like a bee to me.
I have bees at home, so I'm not scared.
Huh.
All right, and I failed to excuse Councilmember Malkovich. She did let me know that she would not be able to attend. So, item 16, possible items for upcoming city council meetings. I talked to Jody this evening. There are some things in the works, but nothing, no surprises, I guess, right? I don't know. Do we want
I
to
have
give
a
a
question.
preview of anybody have anything that they want to get
Or-
added to it?
And no, I just wondered, in the past, we've taken July. Are we gonna do that?
Yeah, do we do one meeting in July or do we do no meetings in July? Yeah, I thought we did one, but I won't be here on the 9th, so I'll be
I
remote.
won't
But,
either. Be on Lake Powell.
oh, please tell me that.
I won't be here.
You won't be here?
Uh-uh.
I'm going the
Okay,
week before.
Oh.
well.
I can
Ben
do
and-
my best
Doral
to
will
make
be
sure
with
I'm out
me.
of town.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we could, I got.
We could
satellite. We could
zoom
If
up
that's
and
the
zoom.
case, we won't have a quorum and we will need to
But we could meet on the,
look
Later.
at doing it on a different date, which
Okay.
would be the 16th or the 23rd.
Sorry.
I thought you weren't afraid.
I
Did
wanna
you just
close
say you
here.
weren't afraid of bees?
I'm not, but he's acting kind of erratic, and I wanted to close my laptop. Now he's down there somewhere.
16th or the 23rd works for me.
16th, yeah. But if we do it on the 16th,
Probably.
The 20, are we doing the 23rd?
we do it on the 16th, where, we have to have birthday cake or something. Almost.
Oh.
my God.
It's almost
Oh.
mine too.
I'll bring
Well,
it.
then
The
we'll,
9th was.
We can't have you bring your own cake.
we'll-
I'll let Ben bring
it.
you it,
then we'll-
because it's
we'll-
his birthday too.
We'd be
almost
happy
have
to
cake then.
provide a cake if it's the
February.
16th. I know that there are possibly some issues that some people will want to get on the agenda in
So the-
July.
Yeah, so the 16th
Not
then,
pointing
that,
any fingers to Ben over there.
That works for me. I'd rather it not be around a holiday, so the
Me?
16th kind of.
all right, well, to
16th is
appease
better.
Ben, we'll come in on July 4th and,
I'll be at Lake Powell.
all right,
So
so
we
the
say the
16th,
16th?
is that generally workable for at least a
Okay.
quorum?
Mhm.
I might be remote, but it works.
Okay. All right, we'll tentatively plan on that. We get notice out, Jody. Thanks.
Something else that was brought up is when we passed the attached ADU ordinance, we did not include or have attached a application. So our standard ADU application doesn't appear to work completely with detached.
Oh, okay.
So that will need to be, we need to have one, we're gonna have to attach one to that ordinance, so.
Okay,
Wayne,
That's generally administrative procedure. Doesn't need council approval for the application,
Okay,
so we can work on that.
okay.
you've been given the statutory framework and now you just work within it, right? Okay. All right, well, if,
Just to throw out there, there's a lot of dust kicking up over there at Three Bridges, and I
Yeah.
don't think we can even police that as the city that, isn't working with the developers, but,
I did send a message to Salem today,
oh, good.
and he was going to get in touch with their SWIP inspectors to go check it out. I mean, they're allowed to have dust. It's just how much and how much water they're using to keep it down, stuff like that. They have to stay within the air quality parameters. But so anyway, I did send a message over to Salem today, and they're getting their inspectors on it. So you can let
Yeah,
residents know that
Yeah.
we don't have a lot to say, but we have reached out to Salem to let them know
Okay.
our concerns.
Thank you.
all right, thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll end this and come back at, we can come back at 8:45. That would, it gives us 4 minutes to attend to any business. Maybe 3.5, 4 minutes late. Okay, we'll call the city council meeting to order. Okay, would someone like to volunteer for the opening prayer or the invocation? And then Councilmember Hunt, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yeah, I can give that.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful that we're able to gather together this day as a city council. We're grateful for all of those that have been here to assist us as we've gone through this agenda and work through the different points that need our attention on our agenda this day. We pray that thou wilt guide us. Help us as we are making our vote known, that thou wilt inspire us to do that which is best for our wonderful community. We're so very grateful for them, for the residents of our wonderful, beautiful city, for all that they do to try and make this a wonderful place to live. Pray that thou wilt watch over our mayor as he guides us, that thou wilt bless him and his dear wife as she supports him and sacrifices so much. We pray that thou wilt continually bless and watch over us. We pray that thou wilt also bless Carrie while she is away from us, that she may be protected. And we pray for these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
stand. Repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Any public comment? Okay. Then we will close the public comment portion of the meeting. Items 21 and 22, consent agenda.
I'll make,
Okay, I move that we approve April 23rd, 2024 and May 14th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Okay, so that's a motion by Councilmember Hutchings,
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Those are approved. Item 23, Resolution 2024-19, amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 municipal budget and providing an effective date.
No, this would be a motion for the revised version that we received that Chris just sent us.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion for that, for the resolution 2024-19, amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 municipal budget and provided as effective and an effective date with the alterations that were made during this and discussed during this work session.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Hilliard, seconded by Councilmember Lunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 24, Resolution 2024-20, adopting the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget.
I move that we adopt the 2024-2025 budget as discussed tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Second
Councilmember Kinnison, motion by Councilmember Kinnison, seconded by Councilmember Hutchings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 25, ordinance 2024-18, approving compensation increases for the municipal employees, including executive municipal officers.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-18, approving compensation increase for the municipal employees, including the executive municipal officers, as well as the inclusion of the city council and mayor.
Okay. So that's a motion by Councilmember Hilliard, and we've got the document right now, Jody.
Was that the one numbered 19 instead?
18.
Okay.
So 18 is the correct number.
Okay.
Okay, so a motion by Councilmember Hilliard,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Hutchings. Councilmember Hutchings,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Item 26, Resolution 2024-21, adopting the proposed amendments to the city fee schedule.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed amendments to the city fee schedule.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Lunt.
Is this to include, must be with the resident that wasn't updated in that, to have a resident?
A councilmember.
Did it get sent? I'm sorry, my bad.
Council member.
Oh, you're saying only residents can
Only
make the
residents
request.
who make the request.
Gotcha.
And to the council liaison.
The individual requesting the waiver must be a resident.
Oh, yeah.